From the Comcast Business Studios, 97.5, The Fanatic. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas. This is Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
So, of course, we're going to talk some Eagles today because joint practice is going on with the New England Patriots. And apparently the defense had a great day, which is something to celebrate, I think. We'll talk about it. We're also going to talk about a pitiful, embarrassing, once again lifeless performance by your Philadelphia Phillies. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
I believe it would be a failure for the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, if they do not win the NFC East. The Eagles have had a quiet training camp.
And to me, I look at it and say, it's wonderful to have peace and serenity out in South Philly.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Screw it. Good morning. What's up, Johnny? I'm not even going to do
I'll
the
tell
normal.
you, doesn't he?
And a good Wednesday morning. No. Damn it.
No, and it just gets, you know what? It gets a little bit worse all the time.
Phillies lose 5-0. 5-0. 5-0. A 4-hit performance by your Philadelphia Phillies against a guy 0% of Philadelphians have ever heard of. I would say probably 2% of Major League Baseball heard of Valente Belloso.
I Googled him at 5:30.
There's no way anyone knew who that guy was. Maybe they had no scouting report on him, and that's why he pitches 7 shutout innings and allows only 4 hits to a lineup that is being paid $18 billion, something like that. Don't quote me on it.
Oh, no, that's not the only reason that you can go 7 shutout innings. You can do that because of, once again, a crappy approach at the plate, swinging at garbage, not like first pitches. Oh, sure. We're going to swing. We don't even know what this guy has in his repertoire, but we're going to swing at first pitches all the freaking time. This team is just, they are atrocious for more than 2 months.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. Absolutely.
25-30 going into yesterday, now 25-31.
Yeah.
Add another L to the column. I mean, it's bad. This is horrible.
And it is a worse stretch. Honestly, it's a worse stretch now than you're talking about this team playing over. It's 2.5 months now.
Right.
This is not, oh, it's baseball. This is what happens in baseball. Don't worry about it. It's baseball. No, it's not. It's
you were able to say that a month ago. You
were
able to say, hell, I would say that you could say that 2 weeks ago because it was still coming off of the All-Star break. And you've seen that with teams before. We're coming out of the All-Star break. They're not hot, right? Remember, going into the All-Star break, obviously the series against the Athletics was embarrassing, but they had an incredible stretch before that A series. And maybe, just maybe, after winning that series against the Dodgers, sweeping the series against the Dodgers, you see them lose a series to the A's and you go, all right, letdown spot. We see it in football all the time.
It happens.
We see it in basketball all the time.
Losing 2 out of 3 to the A's is not bad in and of itself.
Right.
It's not. It's not.
Because it's a part of this collective downfall that the Phillies are currently going on. They're spiraling out of control. It's horrible. And you lose yesterday 5-0. And I said it in the little teaser there, John. Lifeless. And here's the problem. That's now 3 straight lifeless games out of this baseball team.
And the slump shoulders and the shaking of the heads and the just turn your I mean, I have no idea. And then again, the butcher of shortstop at it again. Routine
2 more errors for the team yesterday.
Routine ground balls. I mean, just a routine ground ball to short is not routine with this team. It's just not. It's not. They have too many spots where they literally look like Tom Cruise handling a grenade in a Mission Impossible movie.
Right.
It's freaking terrible. And there's no life. You know what the problem is, Andrew? There's no life during a game, but more importantly, there's no life afterwards or before it. It's the constant. Hey man, we're going through it right now, and I trust these guys, and then the players that they're it's just
Well, and remember,
we're going to come around.
One of the things that bothered me, and I brought this up to you guys a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if everybody was here. It's summertime vacation happening. One of the things that really bothered me that hit me a couple of weeks ago was very much to what Jalen Hurts did last season. The messaging changed. Remember, Jalen
go with this
Hurts,
again, right.
when they were 10-1, it was ugly, but he would say, look, I'm glad we won, but the standard's the standard. We're not playing at the standard, right? That's when they were 10-1. They had the best record in football.
Yes.
But he realized that they weren't playing well. Then they started losing football games. And then they won the game against the Giants, right? The first game against the Giants, right?
Christmas night.
And I remember the messaging changed to, well, since when is winning not all that matters? Since when is winning not the main thing? And
He changed it.
I go, well, hold on a second. When you were 10-1, you were saying that you weren't playing to the standard, and the standard is the standard. And I agreed with you. Like, I was waiting for that team to turn the page to the dominant football team that we saw the previous year. They didn't, and then the messaging changed. Kyle Schwarber earlier this season, when the Phillies had won basically every single series of note up until May and June, they lost a series or they split a series. It was something that wasn't the end of the world.
No.
Kyle Schwarber got behind a camera, got behind a microphone, and said, every guy in that clubhouse is pissed off. And I'm like, oh.
Really?
No, they were. And then they came out and they won the next 5 series. Now the messaging's changed. It went from every guy in there is pissed off to it's a long season to we've been here before. We've had our backs up against the wall before. Back of the baseball card. Why is the messaging different in August or even in July? Because this is when I first heard it. When in May and June you felt comfortable saying, hey, after that one loss, we're pissed off. Now you're losing games constantly, and you're telling me that this happens.
Because they know now they don't have any answers. They don't have any answers. Flat out. And to me, that is the worst part of all. Because it's one of the things where we killed Nick Sirianni for it last year. When the team was in a death spiral, he had nothing to be able to remedy the situation. Rob Thompson, I got to tell you, what is a manager for?
Well, so that's the thing.
What's a manager for?
I write down today's topic of what can they do different, and I really don't know if there is much that they can do different.
How about accountability for when guys are playing lackadaisical, lazy, lethargic baseball?
Right,
What did Charlie Manuel do? What did we had another World Series in this town before you guys were born.
Mm-hmm.
What did Dallas Green do? They held players accountable, and they publicly held players accountable.
Well, you can't do that these days.
They didn't kiss ass.
Can. Here's the question, though. What is accountability with this team to you, John? Let's put you in the manager's chair.
How about this? Is that we cannot be giving teams extra outs every single night on the base paths, 2 errors in the team, and then, by the way, another gifted second base last night because they don't know what base to throw to, Connor.
Okay.
They don't. Nothing changes.
We will get to all of the stuff that they're not doing, but the messaging is if Rob Thompson has not said that to this team, he deserves to lose his job and never coach again. I guarantee you, I would stake anything on the fact that Rob Thompson has talked to this team about their defense and their base running.
I guarantee he has, but Connor, it ain't working.
Okay, so then what do you do?
Then what you do is you don't do the same stuff over and over again and expect that it's working.
Okay, so
this is not
what? You call guys up from AAA?
No, you can sit a guy down. Believe me, he does the give-up lineup twice a week. He has no problem.
And you complain about that lineup.
He has no problem with but you know what you do? I've seen coaches in this town, very successful coaches. Some of our most successful coaches have been guys that were willing to publicly hold his players accountable for stuff that shouldn't be acceptable. This team plays lazy baseball, and again on the base paths last night, just not running out. How many times last night? Ground ball, we're just going to not run it out. They're not even running out balls in the infield. It's like, hang the shoulders, flop on over. This team's energy sucks.
Yeah, I agree.
And they've been allowed to do. It's allowed to happen.
Well,
it's being allowed to happen. The fact is, Connor, you're going to continue to defend this.
I'm not
and the
defending
fact that a Major League Baseball team,
John, listen to me. I'm not defending it.
The fact that a Major League Baseball team does not know what base to throw to. When a ball goes to the outfield and runners are on base, and now it is 4 consecutive games that's happened.
Listen
where
to
you're
me.
gifting bases.
I'm not defending it. You need to hear what I'm saying. They stink right now. They're doing stuff
we
wrong.
All know.
Okay, I know. So don't tell me I'm defending this like I'm blind about it. What I'm saying is you're locked into the players you have. There's only so much this manager can do.
Have you heard Rob Thompson stand up in front of the media, tell the fans of this town, and speak publicly and say, our team plays stupid baseball?
Well, no, because that's dumb.
That's dumb to do.
Our team doesn't know what base to throw the ball to.
Yeah, you're right.
I can promise you this. We love Charlie Manuel in this town. Charlie Manuel sure as hell would have said it.
Yeah, but John,
so don't say this like you can't do that.
Who is saying that? The only guy that I believe, and we celebrate him saying it earlier this season, is Ron Washington. That would say something like that. And the LA Angels are 52-68. Like
he
they
doesn't have
stink.
this roster.
No, I know, but
this
I'm
roster,
saying no manager in baseball is doing that.
This roster should not be acceptable. So you're telling me is that what Charlie Manuel did, you cannot do today?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
But he did it. He did it. He did it with his biggest stars.
Yes, he did.
He did it to the fans
years
and said
ago.
It. So you're saying you can't do it today?
I don't know. I really don't know. In the sport
then I'm
of
asking
baseball,
you to
I haven't heard a manager across baseball for like 5-10 years do it.
Because of?
I don't know. I don't know if it's feelings. I don't know.
I think that's then.
And I agree with you. I hate it. Like they should be able to say things publicly.
Here's what I'm saying. You're not holding – the players are not being held accountable.
But we don't know if he's doing that behind closed doors.
But it's not working. We do know it's not working. The same crap is happening night after night. They're trying to stretch singles into doubles when they don't make sense. They're not running out ground balls. They don't know what base to throw to from a ball to the outfield to keep a runner from getting into scoring position. They do stupid things night after night. And I never hear the manager address it.
Yeah, instead.
That is unacceptable. If you don't want to call out a player by name, you can call out the team and say, we're doing things that you will not see at the Little League World Series. And you can do that. If you don't want to get into players' feelings, you can say, we can call out a collective unit. Right. And you know what you can also do? You can also do stuff that Nick Sirianni will do. Or that I've heard Nick Nurse do. We got to do a better job here. We're not coaching these players up. Obviously, the message. Nick Nurse at one point last year said something along the lines of, okay, I got to make sure that what I'm trying to get them to do, they're understanding what I'm asking of them. That's really easy to do, too. You take the blame partially on you, and you put it on the product on the court. You took it on the product on the ice, the product on the field. There's nothing's working that they're doing. So we go out of our way. You two, and I understand it because I think you speak for more of the majority of the fan base. We're like, I don't really think Nick Sirianni should be back. I looked at it as, I don't know. And the more data I'm getting, the more I'm leaning towards where you guys were and not where I was. This is unacceptable leadership at the moment.
Topper versus Sirianni thing, and it's an interesting conversation. It's also just hard because the sports are so different. Like, how many times do we say a manager really only wins you or loses you
10 to 12 games
in a 162 game season, whereas a head coach in football could be part of a reason why you went from 10-1 to 11-6.
What is his supposed to be greatest skill set? And I believe it is. It has been.
Who, Rob Thompson?
Yes.
It's keeping everybody together and the happy
and
clubhouse.
It's fallen apart. They are the second worst team in baseball since the All-Star break.
Yeah, behind and historically bad baseball team.
I mean, only
they're lucky the White Sox are historically bad.
This is completely unacceptable.
You're right. Now, what I will say in that conversation about what Rob Thompson does best, the Phillies haven't gotten to the point, like, how many times when you see this, do you see guys in the dugout yelling at each other and stuff like that, fights between the team.
Yeah, but you know what?
Fighting. Maybe you do.
Like, honestly, they might need something like that.
Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber getting the ring in locker box. Like,
no, the idea is
we got to sign Jonathan Papelbon and let him choke each other out.
And by the way, Bryce Harper's the one who should have the biggest microphone. He's the one who should be He's the one who should be front and center speaking about this. He should be the one front and center going, I need to do better. We have guys not playing the game the right way. Playing the game the right way should be the absolute floor of expectation of every person in the fan base and of the guy, John Middleton, who's signing the checks. Play the game the right way. You hear this all the time with baseball. respect the game.
Right.
You got to respect the game. Don't steal a base when you're up 7 runs. Respect the game. Do things the right way. Well, the way the Phillies are playing is completely disrespecting the game because they don't play it smart. They play it lazy, and the same crap goes on every night, and no one is held accountable publicly.
Yeah, I mean, last night all they did was try to swing for the fences.
Oh, my gosh.
Hit, what, 17 flyouts, if not more, by the end of the game?
I'm not sure, because I sometimes I will take off my glasses. I'm not watching TV with my glasses on. I had to put it on last night because I was trying to watch the speed of pitches.
Oh,
and
like
as Ricky Batalico will tell you,
92 miles per hour.
And I don't even believe the radar guns today. I don't believe it for a second. The radar guns are accurate. But he was throwing stuff that these guys should
He's throwing
be able to
cookies.
drill.
Right. He's throwing cookies, and they had 4 hits against this guy, which is unbelievable. Now, the question is, for the Phillies themselves, and we have a topic that we'll get into about what the Phillies could do differently. They have to realize themselves, what is this current mentality? I keep on bringing up the messaging, how 2 months ago, if they lost the game, it was we're pissed. Now they're losing games left and right, and it's, hey, we still have time. It's a long season. This is baseball. Bryce Harper, after the series against the Diamondbacks, you just mentioned how he needs to have the biggest voice.
He should have the biggest voice.
He said, we're not scared, that we're losing. And, obviously fear isn't probably coming into play, but, again, it's another not-so-great message to say, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We're not worried about our downfall right now.
Yeah, they're not worried about
collapse.
they're not worried about it for 2 months. That's great, Bryce. That's great. First of all, it's a stupid message. We're not worried about it. Yeah, don't worry about it. You're not worried about guys not understanding how to play the game the right way.
Yeah.
You're not that doesn't bother you. We're not worried about it. And that's the whole problem. He summed up what the problem is with this baseball team. It's no problem.
And they're all kind of cool, calm, and collected. And who knows? Is that a good thing for down the line? I'm not sure because it's not working right now. Here's Rob Thompson yesterday going with one of your favorite terms, John, the baseball card.
Well, just because we've been through this before, maybe not this prolonged, but you look at the numbers on the back of their baseball cards, I always bring that up. I believe in this team. They're resilient. They're tough. They care. I know we're going to turn around.
Look, and he's absolutely right about it. I don't believe that they're going to blow the division lead.
No, it's still 6 games even after another loss last night.
I don't believe it, but I can tell you this. Am I supposed to be excited?
No.
Am I supposed to be? This is a baseball team where your owner has went out and spent $250 million to field it. Is he getting his return on investment for this?
Not in the last 2 months, no.
2 months of a baseball season.
Yeah, that's horrible.
This is ridiculous. I mean, this is ridiculous. And when they played this way under a Joe Girardi, everybody was very throaty about how unacceptable it was.
Well, because it was year 3 of it.
No, I got you. But he didn't have this roster. He didn't have this roster.
Correct. We haven't seen it. Well, he did the first part of 2022, obviously. But we haven't seen anything like this in the Rob Thompson era. Now, here's Kyle Schwarber, who is really the voice of the team. Bryce Harper, we know, is the leader by example, blah, blah, blah. Here's Kyle Schwarber last night after another Phillies loss.
When you're going through the thick of it and you're battling, left and right and trying to fight for a win, and you try to search for something, right, besides when the answer is just right in front of you, where, you have that belief in yourself and you have your belief in your team, and that you look on paper, right, you see the names and you see the guys who've got great track records in the game, the postseason, right, and at the end of the day, we're going to find a way to be those guys and come together even more tight-knit and keep moving forward.
Did he just become Nick Sirianni? He threw 3 rights in there. Right. I was telling Mike Missanelli yesterday because he was wondering about it. He goes, is this a new trend with Nick Sirianni? I said, no. He says right all the time. And any speakers, like someone who studies that, would tell you that's somebody trying to get you to affirm what they think. When they say to you, right, they're looking at you and they want to see you nodding.
Right.
And unfortunately,
right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Look, I love Kyle Schwarber, like everything he's been to this organization and otherwise.
He's been tremendous.
But that's lame. But that's
the thing. It's
lame.
It's the whole team's messaging right now. And earlier this season, it wasn't. And I brought this up when things were great. I forget if it was you. One of you were out, I'm pretty sure. So I'm sorry.
We've narrowed that down.
But I brought it up. even when things were very good, like I almost was like, maybe I'm going a little too far here, but I don't like the messaging's changing, just like it did with Jalen Hurts.
I remember you talking about this. And yes, I remember you talking about this.
Here we are now. It's the same messaging, and this team is constantly losing baseball games.
And more importantly, I don't know if it's worse when the Phillies collapse and the Eagles collapse were over 2 months. The Phillies get a chance to correct it every single day.
Yes.
The Phillies get a chance to improve every single
day.
Not a
week-by-week game.
The Phillies can do things to, I don't know. I got to tell you, if Major League Baseball players need film study to know what base to throw behind runners to make sure they don't advance into scoring position, if that has to be a Tom Amansky video, would somebody get it to the clubhouse?
So I know this is a pretty tough question to answer. What can the Phillies do different? Let's try to discuss that, because I do have some thoughts.
Unlike the manager,
there's some guys that shouldn't be in the lineup every day, and we've talked about this a couple of times. We'll focus on that coming up next. The Rob Thompson versus Nick Sirianni conversation is an interesting one. The things we said about Sirianni last season, after last season, should we say that stuff about Rob Thompson? And also, speaking of the Eagles, open practice, or joint practice, yesterday with the New England Patriots. Defense apparently had a great day. Does that mean anything to you? We'll discuss that as well. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic.
Wednesday morning and Adam Shefter Wednesday morning. Shefty, of course, is going to be joining us coming up at 8 o'clock. We hope to speak to Dan Orlovsky as well at some point today. React to that top 10 list that he put together with the 7 different quarterback attributes that I know was talked about a lot on the station yesterday. So we're going to try and get in touch with Danny. We just have to figure out the time today.
You've texted him, though. He is awake.
We have been in contact. We're just trying to figure out a time. Obviously, he's got the ESPN schedule that gets sent out. It's like, here, you got to do this, and he'll find the 10-minute window for us. And also, Eagles-Patriots joint practice. We're going to get into that coming up in a little bit because the defense apparently looked really good yesterday. And my question for you, and we'll dive deeper into this coming up in a little bit, is whether or not that means anything for you. Because it's joint practice. People try to keep us grounded, John, anytime that we're excited. But I'll say this, the Eagles defense, we've only heard about how great the offenses look this entire camp. They're going up against the Eagles defense. So that means the Eagles defense probably hasn't looked that good. The first time they go up against a different opponent in a joint practice, and this is coming off of a preseason, I thought they looked pretty good against Baltimore.
I did too.
I get it. It was the Baltimore backups, and this is a joint practice, so it's not a real game. But the defenses apparently looked good in their last 2 kind of opportunities to show themselves, show what they are made of. And I'll look at that as a positive, but I'm sure there are some people that are going to say it's joint practice and it's the New England Patriots.
I took one line yesterday from the reporters pool of ours, fundamentally sound. I noticed a few different guys, their comment being they look fundamentally sound.
And how much does that help that Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, last year, what did they not look?
Fundamentally sound or talented, period.
Yeah, so there it goes.
Yeah, so we'll dive deeper into that coming up. But, look, it's another frustrating day for the Phillies fans. We'd love to get to your reaction on the phone line, text line, 610-632-0975. And our question for you, there's a Rob Thompson, Nick Sirianni discussion that we want to have. The things we were saying about Sirianni, should we start saying the same things about Rob Thompson?
Are there differences? That's one of the things Are there differences?
Yeah,
right.
there are.
Okay, tell me what.
I just think the sport's completely different.
And the talent level of the roster is also different.
Yeah, he has a more talented roster, Rob Thompson.
Exactly. So shouldn't that say that you should be a little bit more stable? Like, shouldn't that say you should be a little bit more consistent?
I think expectations of performance should be higher.
No, they should be. But if you believe your team is more talented, it makes you a little bit less likely to have to. Panic's not the right word, but Nick Sirianni should have looked at what was going on with his defense, and he did make a panic move with that change of defense coordinator.
Right, with Patricia.
Right, you don't have – so, let's look at it coordinator-wise, too. You had 2 guys who basically didn't know what they were doing at the level of position they were in. Right now, you have Kevin Long and Caleb Cotham as your hitting and pitching coach, respectively, and whatever you think of those guys, they were the guys in those positions in 22 and 23. Right. So there's more of a track record of success with the people in positions, players or coaches, that the Phillies have right now compared to the Eagles.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've said it before. I think that Kevin Long is blessed by an incredibly talented roster of hitters over the years.
I think he's respected.
The approach at the plate is terrible. They have a terrible approach at the plate, and it never changes.
Now, my big beef with Sirianni last season was that nothing changed over the last 2 months. Yep. I keep on saying, I've used this analogy a million times. If you're struggling at work and you were given 2 months to try to come up with a plan, and when you came to your boss, like the corporate's in, right? They fly in from out of town. Hey, I hope the last 2 months have been great. What do you got for us? Nothing. We're going to keep doing the same thing. You would get fired, right?
You'd be fired.
That's why I wanted Nick Sirianni gone. Now, Rob Thompson is doing the same thing right now, even though I do believe it's a different sport. But our question today is, what can they do different? So we got a tweet from Franco. Raider Frank, check.
What's up, Franco?
He said it might absolutely do nothing. He realizes this might do nothing. But don't you at least have to change the lineup a little bit? He said, what can it hurt at this point? You can always go back. Now, let's take Schwarber out of it because you know that's not changing. Bryson Stott.
Oh, my gosh.
Should never, from now until he turns things around, be batting 5th in your lineup. I don't care about lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty.
By the way,
I don't give a damn about that.
John Kruk pointed this out on the broadcast.
All right, I did not hear this.
John Kruk sort of talked about this, about these managers being obsessed with the lefty, righty stuff. And he was pointing out, even with the Marlins, too, the idea is that It's absurd.
Yeah, I remember the days of Chase Utley and Ryan Howard batting back-to-back.
If guys aren't performing, then just keep throwing them out there for 2 months and not change anything up. Come on.
Bryson Stott had a hit in the final game of the Diamondbacks series. He is now 1 for his last 18. He is 2 for his last 22, 3 for his last 26, 3 for his last 31, 3 for his last 35. All right, he's 3 for his last 35. This dates back to August 2nd against the Seattle Mariners. His batting average is down to 232. It's not like he bats fifth because there's the chance of pop. He does not have that. He's not driving the baseball and hasn't since really opening day. This guy should not be batting fifth, and I think we're starting to see the platoon. When there is a lefty starter, we're starting to see Edmundo Sosa get starts, and I don't think Edmundo Sosa is an everyday second baseman. But in terms of lineup construction, Bryson Stott should not be penciled in 5 or 6. The question is, though, because I ask, it's not an easy question to answer. What can they do different?
Well, I mean,
so who are you moving up? Marsh? Mr. Strikeout King?
Well, for some reason, too, another thing, and again, it's great with Rob Thompson's philosophies of patience. They choose who to be patient with and who not to be patient with. Their best defensive player on the entire roster, they're not patient with. He goes 1 for 2 last night, and then they pinch hit for him. Brandon Marsh.
Cal Stevenson did give it a ride. Okay.
Yeah,
Brandon Marsh can go out there and look like absolute butt for 2 months.
Well, there's
and it's like, let's give him more opportunities to suck.
He has struck out.
He's terrible.
115 times this season.
Let's keep giving him more opportunities. We're not going to give him less. Let's give him more opportunities to show us what he can't do.
I'm not going to defend Brandon Marsh, man. I'm not going to defend him today. But
what I will start of his at-bats, man.
Yeah, he's not been good. What I will say with the Cal Stevenson versus Rojas thing, it goes back to that pop thing Andrew was just talking about with Bryson Stott. Like, Rojas does not have pop. He's not going to hit a home run. You can't bank on that. And if you feel like...
Yeah, but then again, Connor, I'll say this. Cal Stevenson came up to bat with nobody on, right?
Yeah.
Nobody on.
4-0.
No, I got you.
Was that home
makes
run
no sense.
going to make it a 4-4 game?
I got you if you think it can get the guys going. Remember, as much as like we get annoyed with the Phillies' approach, the modern game is still home run centric. That's every team.
If Cal Stevenson is what Rob Thompson thinks this team needs to, like, get a jolt and everything with this roster, with this payroll, with these stars.
No, but you're already hitting all your guys.
It's 4-0. You do not. There's no reason to pinch hit for Johan Rojas. None.
There was really no reason at the time.
There's no reason to do it. He continues to preach. And what does that do for Rojas? For a guy who, by the way, is doing more than they even said on microphones in spring training that they expected him to do at the plate. Mm-hmm. And you have all these other guys who are doing far less, like Marsh, like Stott, and they get nothing but grace. They get nothing but, let's give these guys more opportunities to go out there and be terrible. And a guy who has given you more than you said you wanted in spring. It's like, well, we need some pop now. If you need pop, you got to line up with Schwarber and Harper and Turner and Castellanos, and you need pop out of your center fielder. Well, that's freaking stupid baseball.
Well, John, I understand, but those guys aren't providing it right now outside of Kyle Schwarber.
So he's trying to find anything.
So you're trying to find something. We ask what they can do differently. He tried something different. He hit a guy who has not been up with the team, seeing if you could get something out of a guy that has not been in this slog that the Phillies have been in for 2 months. It got a pretty good swing on the ball. It didn't work out. It was a 4-run game already.
Here's the thing. You know Cal Stevenson's not playing.
No, I know.
Oh, no, he does play in order to be able to get Brandon Marsh into the lineup. To be able to have Brandon Marsh be able to play. That's what he's in there for. I mean, so that way you can have Marsh in. The amount of leash they've given Brandon Marsh is ridiculous.
Hold on a second.
When you look at the back of the baseball
you
card.
You were also saying
Brandon
at one
Marsh.
point you wanted him out there every single day.
Yeah, but I wanted Rojas in center, and I want Marsh in left. And by the way, I think you then have superior defense on 2/3 of your outfield.
Yes, you do.
I think because Marsh is a fantastic left fielder, and then you've got Rojas. So instead of cultivating, by the way, a team that plays crappy defense, instead of cultivating, you know what we can do? For our pitchers, we can put the best defensive team out there.
Right.
They don't. That's not his strategy.
So who played left last night?
It was Brandon Marsh.
Who played center?
It was Johan Rojas.
And then you pinch
until
it
they
for
pinch it for him.
Got to pinch it for him.
They pinch
by the way, a guy 1 for 2 in the game.
Right, because Rob Thompson is trying to do stuff differently. We can't ask him to do different things, and then when he does it, kill him.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the different things is, all right, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm is your constant 1 through 4.
It's not working.
And again, look, Schwarber's not moving anywhere.
That top 4 ain't changing.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I would mix around Alec Bohm a little bit because he's not providing the power that you want at your 4-0 hitter.
But he's consistent at being opportunity to get
So maybe you move him up to 2, and now all of a sudden he's batting more. But then that means Turner's got to drop somewhere. And
Turner
it's
deserves
hard.
to drop.
Yeah, but drop to what? Like, you don't want him batting cleanup.
No, can you have him drop down? Can you have him drop down? Like, just.
Well, then who are you moving up
for a night
That's
or two?
my thing. Who are you moving up? Because if I want to move down Bryson Stott, which I do, I don't believe Bryson Stott deserves being the 5 hole. So what? I'm moving Castellanos up to 5.
I would tell you that Bohm and Castellanos have been far better than what we've seen out of Trey Turner for a month.
Right. I didn't say move.
So I'm saying
up
is that
Bohm as a punishment.
I'm saying is that that to me is you can slide Turner down.
Like, why can't I do Schwarber,
By the way,
Bohm, Harper, Castellanos?
Last year they did to try to get him out of it. They were batting him 6th, weren't they? Turner.
So maybe they were. So maybe they try to do something different.
And I know standing ovations.
Thompson did say yesterday it may be time to start doing things differently.
Oh, well, glad to see it.
Look, you know what? Usually I don't care about lineup when the lineup comes out, especially when you have a lineup that you can probably just pencil in. When you're struggling like this, today's a day where I'm going to be refreshing Twitter to see what the Philly starting lineup is. It better be different today. Maybe not drastically, but maybe some sort of message needs to be sent by the manager. All right, we get your text messages coming up next, your calls as well, 610-632-0975. And I do want to talk about this Eagles defense. Apparently their performance was great yesterday and joint practice. You'll hear from the head coach as well as some of the beat reporters that were there yesterday. It's Kincade and Salciunas on an Adam Shefter Wednesday right here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Ricky Vitalico.
There is a lot on Bryce Harper right now. And the one thing Bryce Harper's got to do, relax himself. You know you're one of the great.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. Get to your Phillies texts coming up in a few minutes after another loss yesterday. And our question today is, what can the Phillies do differently?
How about just do something differently?
Who's Ashen Girl checks in?
Yes.
Oh, I have an idea. Start hitting the ball again. Yeah.
I told her that's great. It's only been 2 months, but I said that's very logical of you.
That'd be nice. All right, I want to get your answers coming up. But real quick, the defense showed up yesterday at joint practice. So I'll ask you this. Does that do anything for you? Considering that the offense has been the talk of the town since the start of training camp, and, of course, they're going up against the Eagles' defense. So I know there have been some people questioning, is the Eagles' offense that good or is the Eagles' defense that bad that the offense looks so good? Preseason week number 1 against the Ravens, I thought they looked pretty good.
No, I think there was I think they actually looked better than good.
Yes,
the amount of, considering, too, a lot of backups were going up against backups. I thought it was pretty good.
And then yesterday in joint practice, apparently they looked really good yesterday. Let's play the E.J. Smith clip here, Connor. Here's E.J. Smith, who does a great job covering the Philadelphia Eagles. He was on with the best show ever yesterday and gave his report from Foxborough.
Every time I look at the defense today, they were quite dominant, I would say. You know, the defensive line had a really good day. Jalen Carter, I think the last couple of practices in general, I feel like Jalen Carter seemingly has been making a point of setting the tone with his intensity in practice. You know, you definitely saw that today. And there were just a handful of turnovers. There were a lot of sacks. At one point, my colleague, Jeff Nyberg, turned to me and said, I think the Eagles have 5 sacks in the last 6 plays. Yeah, I definitely think it was a dominant day for the defense. It's important to remember that they were playing a Patriots offense that doesn't have a ton of firepower, but I definitely would say it was an encouraging day for the defense.
Well, that's good because we haven't really heard much of that. We've heard encouraging things about individuals from Vic Fangio, except for the preseason game and now today. So that's 2 days in less than a week. We've heard a good response about the Eagles' defense. Does that do anything for you, John?
Good. It gives me, how about this? It reinforces the faith I already had in Vic Fangio.
Okay, fair.
So that's good enough for me.
Yeah, you're not going to say that they're the 2000 Ravens or the 85 Bears.
But remember, all we're shooting for, at least me, I said I expect them to commit around 12th in defense.
Right.
Somewhere around there. I don't expect them to be top 10, but if they're in that 12, 13, 14 range, with this offense, I think it'll be good enough.
I think so, too. Connor, does it do anything for you when you hear about how the Eagles' defense was dominant in a joint practice against the New England Patriots, but it was a different team?
Not really. That would be like if the Phillies beat the White Sox right now. The Patriots are not.
Worst
can I tell you right now? I'd freaking take it.
I know. I think we all would. But the Patriots aren't trotting out Tom Brady anymore. What I will say is, like John's right about what our expectations for the defense are. If they're top 15 in the NFL for me, I'm happy. And that sounds like a team that's doing what they need to be at worst middle of the pack. And that's fine with me. So it's encouraging. I'm just not trying to look too much into it.
I got you. All right, so we're going to continue the Eagles conversation as the show goes on. But it's been a busy first hour talking Phillies, as it should be. After another lifeless loss, 3 games in a row, they just kind of went out there and played baseball, if you could call it that. What do we have on the text line, Connor?
We have a lot of people upset. And
well, good. Let it out today, man. Today's a day where I'm not even going to do it go as far as you want. You want to say they're not going to make the playoffs? I still think you're wrong. Go for it. I'm not going to combat you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm asking the question, what can they do differently? There's a million answers, even though I don't think there's really one that will do much, but go for it.
All right, Todd from Maryland leads us off. He says, I'm officially concerned about the Phillies. The slump has been long enough to where it seems to be more than just the ups and downs of baseball. It seems like a legitimate reason to worry. I may be tainted by the Eagles' collapse, but I'm now afraid the same type of collapse may be happening with the Phillies.
And that's the thing that people keep on going to. They see some sort of correlation. I know Steven Pensawkin's doing the same thing. What's up, Steve?
Yeah, it's definitely pretty similar to the Eagles' collapse. But even further than just the collapse, I think you guys are comparing Sirianni and Thompson. I think a better comparison, in my opinion, is Thompson and Jalen Hurts. You got 2 soft-spoken leaders who, when things are going well and you're winning, everything's great. But when things like this are happening, that soft-spoken attitude, it just makes it almost impossible to get out of this hole.
The only thing is, though, is that this is nothing like the Eagles' collapse, because the Eagles' collapse, they played 125 winning percentage ball. The Phillies are playing like 400.
Well,
there's a big difference between winning 1 out of 10 and winning 4 out of 10. Huge difference.
There is. But the way they're trending, it's definitely.
Oh, it's troubling. Oh, it's troubling. Definitely.
Yeah, it's just I think the whole soft-spoken attitude with your leaders, it just doesn't work. And I don't think managerially, I don't think there's anything Thompson can do from a lineup standpoint, pitching standpoint. I think it's going to take some belt to ass and some accountability.
Dude, honestly, it might be, Steven. Thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it. Because look, I've always had a dream Phillies lineup where JT Realmuto is the 2-hole hitter because that's the kind of baseball that he plays, right? But am I really awarding a guy that's also since the All-Star break batting like 150?
He's batting like 240 for the year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like I can have a dream lineup based off of my baseball intellect and see these guys. Like Kyle Schwarber would not be my leadoff hitter in my dream Phillies lineup, but they win baseball games with Kyle Schwarber and he gets more bats and blah, blah, blah.
Which, by the way, now, don't give me that math.
Right, I mean, none of that.
Don't give me that math.
Right, none of that really makes sense.
That math's not working for you anymore because it never had anything to do with him batting leadoff.
Right.
And now that they're losing, don't give me that math. It might be a time. Why can't it happen?
Dude,
why not?
You know what? You're right.
It's not working.
Well. We're not changing Kyle Schwarber. He's been one of the better hitters in the National League, top to bottom for anything you could ask for this past month.
So if you put runners on base in front of him, he's all of a sudden not going to be a better hitter?
Yeah, but that's not how it works. You don't just transfer the stats to a different spot in the lineup. You can work around guys depending on who's hitting behind them. You can approach guys different.
Last season when the same thing happened. Remember, he wasn't batting. He didn't bat leadoff consistently till what? Probably June, right? When the June Schwarber started again.
I think so.
His numbers in the leadoff spot and the 4-hole were identical. His RBIs were higher because there were guys in front of him.
I mean, the argument doesn't hold place even with his Phillies career.
I get what he's saying. Like, if you bat, my favorite spot in the batting order growing up was 6th, right?
Why?
Because they got through the middle part of the order, and then you get a groovy fastball right down the plate, first pitch. Because they go, I got through the thick of the order, right? Like, that still exists in baseball.
You mean the exhale?
Yeah.
Like an exhale
like
from the pitcher. Okay, I got you.
But, I'm not moving Kyle Schwarber to 6th.
No, but can you move Kyle Schwarber to where he's batting, where he can actually knock some runners in? Would that be... Look, it's already been proven in his Phillies career. When you move him, his numbers don't change. It's not a real thing, and it never was a real thing.
Well, his numbers didn't change. It's not that they're exactly confirmed to stay the same. And also, who's on base for him right now?
Well, so here's what we'll do. I want to get your answers. What would you do different? I told you mine. Bryson Stott can't be batting 5th or in the lineup every day. All right, and I think they're already taking him out of the lineup every day. That man cannot bat 5th when he is in the order, when he has done absolutely nothing this season. I want to hear what you guys would do differently if you were Rob Thompson. And, of course, we'll get into the Eagles conversation as well. Hear more audio from Kyle Schwarber. And John Kruk spoke yesterday. You're going to want to hear it. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Marlins blank the Phils. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by your local PJ Wellahans. Join the
In Salciunas, it is 7:01 on this Wednesday morning here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Coming up, you'll hear more from Kyle Schwarber, the vocal leader of the Philadelphia Phillies. But I also want to play you something from John Kruk in a few minutes. He spoke during the post-game show yesterday on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and I absolutely loved what he had to say. I don't know. Normally, John, when the game's over, I turn it off. No disrespect to Michael B. and Ricky.
I did last night.
I just, especially after, sometimes I just don't want to hear more. But yesterday, I don't know, I had a feeling. I was like, I got to keep on watching this. And I loved hearing what John Kruk had to say. I told Connor when we got in this morning that I wanted to play it. So I'll play that for you coming up in a few minutes. But what we're talking about today when it comes to the Phillies, what can the Phillies do differently? We also have to dive deeper into this Topper versus Sirianni discussion. And then the Eagles had another good day defensively in joint practice. Does that mean anything for you? Would love to also hear from you guys today at 610-632-0975 when it comes to the Eagles and the defense showing out the last couple of days, preseason week number 1 on Friday, and during the joint practice yesterday with the New England Patriots. But I asked you both before we went into the break, what is something that you would want the Phillies to do differently? And you and I, John, it's funny.
We both scrambled to do the same thing.
We did the same thing. We jotted down a lineup. Both of us did the exact same thing. And it's not easy because I'm going, all right, am I really rewarding this guy by moving him up? Am I moving this guy down? Should I be moving this guy down? So you and I did the exact same thing, and we went with a lineup construction.
And, and we went different.
We did.
We went different I went Harper, Realmuto, Schwarber, Bohm. That's, I would want supposedly my best hitter, supposedly my most impactful guy. For many Major League Baseball teams, they decide that's the guy who needs the most at-bats.
Who needs the bat leadoff.
That should be
Whereas
Bryce Harper.
I'm the archaic caveman. I want my best hitter batting third.
So I go Harper, Realmuto, Schwarber, Bohm, Turner, Castellanos. And again, more importantly, it's 2 months. Rob Thompson is the Leslie Nielsen in front of the burning building. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Change something up. For God's sakes, change something up.
And he did talk about it yesterday. He did say that he might do something like that. But I don't know. I've heard him say things before, and then he goes and trots out the exact same thing.
And he says we're getting close.
I know. I know. Well,
the hell? What the hell's he talking about?
You guys thought you guys thought that they were out of it after the 2 wins against the Dodgers.
Yeah, but this is yesterday. He said
I know.
We're getting close. What has he seen in the last 4 games that tells him that's trending in the right direction and they're getting close?
Well, John,
in the last 4.
The 4 hits they had against Volante Beloso were good hits. John.
That's not even a real name. You just made up that name.
I saw a tweet. It was great from one of our listeners who tweeted it. Randy. He goes, I was at the game, and I saw the pitcher warming up. Literally had to look at their roster and see who number 83 was. That's so embarrassing. And the funny thing is, we all had the same reaction when we found out who the starting pitcher was. Oh, this guy's going to throw a gem. Because it always happens.
That whole idea, yeah.
It always happens against the Phillies. Now, Connor, what would you do differently if you were leading the Phillies, you were Rob Thompson, or is there anything that they even can do differently?
Nah, there's really not all that much. I mean, you can switch the lineup around a little bit, but I don't know the guys hitting in different spots is just fixing this. This lineup's so cold that I don't think Kyle Schwarber going from leadoff to cleanup. I don't think Harper going from third to first is just going to be all of a sudden we're going to produce runs. It's not that you have holes in the lineup where guys aren't hitting behind people. It's nobody's hitting. So should you drop Stott lower? Yeah, I agree with that. I don't hate that as an idea. Should you look at the bottom of the lineup and say, do we have to play Cal Stevenson over Brandon Marsh? Do we have to do something different in center field and play Rojas?
Look, I'll say this. The Cal Stevenson thing, I know we talked about him pinch hitting for Johan Rojas. I don't care if it's Cal Stevenson or Steven Callison. I don't care who it is.
Who's that?
Brandon Marsh should not be in the lineup today. He shouldn't be.
I mean,
if we're sending messages, if we're trying, look, I get it. Bryce Harper could go 0 for 100. He's going to be in the lineup every single day. Brandon Marsh has done nothing in his major league career, despite being a former top prospect, to deserve a nod every single day in the starting lineup. And I know they already did that with the platooning, and they started giving him the shots against left-handed pitching. He's not hitting against right-handed pitching. He strikes out too much. That's been my problem with him since they made the trade. Was Logan O'Hoppe going to do anything for the Phillies? Absolutely not. I don't look back at that trade and say, wow, now. I can't believe they did that at the time. I totally get why they did it at the time. But this guy has not cut down his strikeouts. And all I was told, because I'm not the biggest hitting coach guru guy. Like I don't know if they do much. When they trade for him, everybody said, "Oh, come on, the beard. He's funny. He's cool." And Kevin Long's going to cut down the strikeouts. I don't know if Kevin Long can do squat. It's up to Brandon Marsh and his approach and what he does during the offseason, what he does during the season. This guy has walked 36 times and has struck out 115 times. He has 306 at-bats this year. That means over a third of his at-bats have led to a strikeout this year.
But he throws seeds on people and dumps water, and he's great for the vibes.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's begging for Brandon Marsh to be in the lineup anymore. I don't think so. I don't think there's Phillies fans. Like, you keep on bringing up the Bryson Stott walk-up song thing. I heard that walk-up song play yesterday in the ninth inning of that ball game when it was very quiet, so you would think you could hear some things. I didn't hear anybody singing the walk-up song. Everybody's freaking miserable. It's up to the manager to sit back. And you know what? I'm going to say this because I don't think anybody's talked about it.
What's that?
Does Dave Dombrowski get any heat for anything?
What would he get heat for?
What did he not give him?
No,
did Dave
he
Dombrowski
made the trade for Brandon Marsh. We all thought that Bryson Stott was anointed to be this everyday second baseman. I don't think I'm not saying Dave Dombrowski should be fired. I'm just saying Dave Dombrowski put together this roster. Dave Dombrowski ran it back.
That's a crazy thought, and you need to stop it right now.
Why is it a crazy thought?
Because when he made the decision to trade for Brandon Marsh, you were trading a blocked catcher for a player that helped you. When he made the decision that Bryson Stott was going to start at second base, we all believed it was a good idea. We can't now go revisionist and say Dave Dombrowski missed this.
I complained about Brandon Marsh the day he got here, so I'm not doing revisionist.
Okay, well, what were you going to do? Play Logan O'Hoppe over JT Realmuto? Like, you moved an asset for somebody that you could use in a position of need.
Here's the problem. You moved a top asset for a platoon player.
Oh, but you're trade Mr. Prospect, and now we're worried about it?
Trade Mr. Prospect for when we talk about Johan.
You said trade every prospect for
Juan Soto for Robert from Chicago.
Okay, you might not have liked the strikeouts, but we weren't looking at it as, oh my goodness, why did we move Logan O'Hoppe when Dave Dombrowski made it? We're not going to go revisionist. He's been great since taking over for the Phillies.
No, I got to give him credit, Connor. He did.
No, I know.
I mean, he did. And guess what? But
I don't like guys that strike out a third of their at-bats. That, like, Kyle Schwarber can strike out 75% of his at-bats.
I didn't want
as long as he's hitting 40 home runs.
I didn't want Logan O'Hoppe traded either. I did not want him gone. I thought that it was... They definitely gave up more in the deal, but I absolutely thought that Marsh has had his moments.
Yes.
But now what you got is what easily could be a O'Hoppe Marchand future for the Phillies behind the plate.
Well, you would only have one. You're not going to.
But you could still have one as a backup. Why not? I mean, seriously.
Well, if one's too good to be a backup, he would be moved so that you could get something.
O'Hoppe clearly is going to be a miss.
Yeah, but like
you gave up a guy who could have been your catcher for 15 years.
John, you're talking about a burning building. You guys are watering plants right now. Okay, the Logan O'Hoppe, Brandon Marsh trade, it doesn't matter. All right? You have to find a way to deal with what we have in front of us. I'm not relitigating Dave Dombrowski. He's been awesome as the president of baseball.
I'm a
Dombrowski fan too. Don't get like Howie Roseman can make mistakes. He's the best general manager.
He made a mistake on Logan O'Hoppe. That is a absolute mistake because he is a better catcher and a better hitter this year than the catcher you had.
Yeah, I disagree on that entirely. Because how would he have played enough?
Yeah, I would still take Real Muto over O'Hoppe today.
Okay, I would not, but that's okay. I mean, he's like we're almost at like 400 at bats for O'Hoppe. I mean, he's a guy he hits better. He's a more productive hitter. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, the defense of JT Realmuto has majorly fallen off.
Yeah, the throw yesterday.
It has majorly fallen off. He's not the same guy. It is that cliff that we talk about. Mm-hmm. He's been a declining asset.
Okay,
but he's still been good.
When you get to October, would you rather have JT back there or Logan O'Hoppe?
I'd rather have JT Realmuto.
Me too.
Okay,
so in October, it's going to all of a sudden after like months of.
Are we going to pretend like they haven't flipped the switch the past 2 years in October? Let's
they also haven't played like this in July and August.
Okay, but they played like this at points in the season.
Yeah, they did.
And they came out of
April and May. They did. April and May, they did.
So it turns out this team has a low floor and a high ceiling. And
they were all there.
And let's hope that the high ceiling comes back.
You know when they built it up in April and May, they built it up playing teams you're not playing in October.
Okay.
Fact.
And they're 5-1 against the Dodgers and 3-0
they
against
are
the
beating those
Brewers.
teams. And you had somebody within baseball telling
me that he thinks I'm nuts because he says, this team, you know what they can do with the bright lights. Okay, but you're just going to, let this pee away? Now you're a game and a half behind the Dodgers. Now you're like, okay, well, the number one seed now it'll be like, well, that doesn't matter.
Well, here's the thing. They're not letting anything go. It's not like they're going out there saying we don't need to win baseball games right now. But the problem with this team currently, and the problem with Rob Thompson, and this is why he's in such a tough spot, is because you have these high payroll guys that you just don't have any other options to put in over. Who can you play over Trey Turner? Who can you play over?
Give me the pieces you can move around.
You are locked into the guys that you have. JT's playing, Bryce is playing, Schwarber's playing, Turner's playing, Harper's playing, and when these guys go cold, you don't really have other options because your payroll's committed to the stars. So you kind of just have the steady hand is almost the only card you can play.
So our question today, and Connor's basically saying you could do nothing. Is there anything that Rob Thompson and the Phillies can try to do differently to try to shake some things up? You can climb in on the phone line, text line 610-632-0975. We'll get back to the phones and the text in a second. Here's John Kruk last night following another Phillies loss yesterday, kind of just talking as if he's one of us.
Well, I see this thing in two ways. I see it, one, as a fan. I'll watch them play one game, and if they don't play well, I'm like, this team's done. And then the next day they might score, 8 runs. And then you're like, this is the best team in baseball. But right now, they're not the best team in baseball. And right now, the way their record has been since the All-Star break, thank goodness they built up a big lead because it's shrinking. And so now I look at it as a former player. As a player, I have to keep reminding myself it's going to change. It's going to change. We have to trust. Are they as good as they were when they were at their best? No. Are they as bad as they are right now? No. So they have to find a happy medium. But man, the way it started today, man, I don't know. I can't say that tomorrow's the day they're going to break out of this thing because who knows?
I mean, how many times have you done, all right, today's the day?
I did it yesterday.
Today's the day.
Boy, I loaded up on the Bet Parks app. I think Parks might even open up a little extra wing today. I mean, not on the whole.
Are they going to name it the John Kincade
on the
sports book?
No, they're going to name it the Volente Beozo wing.
On the $22.63 that I lost every bet last
I'm sorry for your loss, man.
$22.63. I'm not eating lunch today.
And here's the thing. I'm hearing John Kruk talk, and we were saying 4-2. Hell, I said 5-1 because they're playing the Marlins and the Nationals. And I don't want to
think 4-2 is right there.
Yeah, it is.
It is. That means
I believe they're going to. Well, first off, I'll be in attendance tonight just as a fan, so I know they're going to win.
So they have to go.
They're not losing.
They have to go 4-1 in their next 5.
Yeah, they can do that.
They can.
Yeah, they're
We've said that about a lot of times.
There you go.
They could have come back from the West Coast trip with a 500 record, but they dropped 3 straight against the Diamondbacks and are now losers of, by the way, 4 in a row.
It's unbelievable.
Let's go to Brian in Pottstown. Brian, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What are you up to, Brian?
I don't think there's really anything lineup-wise he can do about it. I think it's absolutely terrible approach at the plate. I mean, 20 fly ball out.
It's terrible. And seriously, this is what a hitting coach is supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do.
Even if you switch the lineup around, there's no one on base to get, anyone in. And I think the prime example is when you pinch hit Johan Rojas with Cal Stevenson or whatever his name is.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, just like anyone knows.
Like that makes any sense at all. I think it's just a testament to their approach at the plate, because what did he do? He came up and he swung for the fence. I mean, he made solid contact, but it was the same thing.
And there's there's absolutely no accountability for it.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything you can do if you don't change your approach at the plate. But all right, guys.
You're the man, Brian. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Krucky brought it. I did hear that part. He mentioned the outs. Was it 17 fly ball outs?
Yes, and more importantly, he talks about the fact that John Kruk and Ruben Amaro Jr., both of them, and again, high-integrity guys as far as working for a team, working on a team's broadcast, and calling out the team. And flat out saying, this first pitch swinging, it's not working. And I don't want to hear again. And these are ex-major leaguers saying, I don't want to hear that guys are more comfortable getting on that first pitch when it's not working consistently. Try something different. And you have guys going up after walks, after pitchers are wild, and it's swing at the first pitch.
Right. So let's discuss why mentally they're doing that.
Because they think he's going to groove one.
Well, maybe. But I have to imagine that Rob Thompson and Kevin Long and everyone who's a hitting mind in that organization has talked to them about their approach during this stretch. When you go through a stretch like this, you're going to try and find ways to get out of it. Like, I don't think Rob Thompson just sits in his office every day and pencils in the lineup card and doesn't think about anything else. So if they're saying it to the players and the players aren't executing it, it's similar to what your beef is with them throwing to the wrong base. Like, you're trying to do too much. That's what I see with this Phillies team right now. That's what I see with the fly ball outs. Every guy who sees 90 at the letters is like, I'm going to take this ball 500 feet to right field and get the team going. So how do you come out of that?
Here's the one thing I can't get, though, Connor, is that there weren't, last night, it wasn't trying to do too much. They threw to the wrong base, not trying to throw somebody out. They just threw it in from the outfield, not paying attention.
I got you, but that's just an example. Like,
but it's 4 games in a row.
The fly ball outs are definitely trying to do too much. Like, that's what happens. You see a guy not throwing as hard.
Squeezing the bat as hard as you can.
You're down 3-0.
Yeah.
Trying to do too much. Nobody on base. And you're swinging out of your shoes.
Exactly.
To try to make it 3-1?
Yes, exactly. This is my point.
Again, that's stupid baseball.
It is. So why are they doing it, and what can we change to make sure that they don't continue to do it? And what it is it's the stress of being in this slump. And that's why I think what Rob Thompson's doing does still have a little bit of validity to it. Because you hit the panic button, you start trying to do too much a lot more.
Okay, panic button is not 8 weeks of baseball.
Well, hold on
It's not 8 weeks.
And Connor, I'll ask you, what is panic? All right, so you're not moving Shorebry the leadoff spot. That's fine. You don't want to move him. That's fine. Is moving Alec Boehm to the 2-hole and Turner dropping a little bit panic?
Panic button would be like, I see people saying send Bryson Stott down.
Yeah,
like that's panic button type
I'm
stuff.
not doing that. Yes.
Major moves like DFA Brandon Marsh, like stuff like that. The big sweeping changes that people want to see with guys struggling.
All right,
then
what would you do? Again, you said there's nothing to do.
Yeah, I would tool around the bottom of the lineup, but honestly, like I said when you commit this much payroll to star players, your depth suffers.
You still batting stop 5th?
No, I'm not batting stop. No, listen, I'm
that guy should drop, man.
Dude, I've told you twice. I agree with what you want to do there with changing around where Bryson Stott bats. He has not been good. If you want to drop Brandon Marsh down more, sure. Now you're a little bit hamstrung in the outfield because you have 2 guys on this roster right now that are not Major League Baseball players, and that's because Austin Hayes is currently hurt.
Yeah.
Now, Austin Hayes is not the savior of this team, but that's even more issues that Rob Thompson has to say. I can't play Weston Wilson or Cal Stevenson out there every day. Like, maybe once in a while they'll get a start, but if I do that, it's, well, why are we starting these kids? Like, you're so locked into the high-profile players, and they're not producing right now, and that puts you in a really rough spot where there's only so much you can change.
My man Jazz has been doing pretty good with the.
Your man Jazz look great.
He's out now,
yeah,
right?
But he was doing.
But still.
Now he's injured, and
he's doing pretty good when they first got him.
Yeah,
man, I don't care what the Yankees
unfortunately,
are doing.
now I think
Screw
he's
the
down.
Yankees.
Yeah, I think he's down now.
Yeah,
I don't think. I hope he's not out for the season, but it looks like it could be.
7 home runs, 327 batting average since going to the Yankees in 13 games.
I don't care about Jazz Chisholm. I care about this team figuring it out.
Yeah, well, they could have figured it out.
Stop it.
Here we go. Coming up next.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Try that again.
What?
I'm going to call you out of it. Try that again.
Try what again?
You sound like you're doing a eulogy at a funeral. But come on, we need to grab some positive. The Eagles aren't giving us crappy energy. The Schefter's not giving us crappy energy. We can't let the Phillies drag us down.
No, and look, I'm fired up about the Eagles. I can't wait for it.
I mean, so try that tease again. Try it again. Because we can't be bringing people down.
Here, I got you. Is this better?
Hey, coming up next.
There we go. Come on. Bring it.
I saw an article on CBS Sports that I believed was worthy of a click until I read the content of it.
And that's clickbait?
No, I wouldn't say clickbait. It's just I thought it was an interesting article, and then when I saw it, I said, really? And that really is either the author's way off base or we are thinking way too highly of the Eagles. I'll explain more coming up next.
I like that. Sounds positive, energetic.
Well, I'm ready to fight because the Phillies are doing this to me. They're making me a miserable son of a...
No, they're not.
Kincade and Salciunas right here on this Wednesday morning. Adam Shefter going to be joining us, as you mentioned, coming up at 8 o'clock right here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Phils drop another.
By the way, we have a big start of the 8 o'clock hour ahead of us. It is
doubleheader, if you will?
Well, yeah, so you guys know Adam Shefter on Wednesdays. He joins us straight up 8 o'clock. Can't wait. We always love our conversations with Shefty. But we're going double dip ESPN in that half hour. We're going Adam Shefter, followed by Dan Orlovsky.
Okay.
Who I love, and I think he does a tremendous job covering the NFL for ESPN, and talking quarterbacks.
He's an adopted Philly guy.
Yes, he is. He vacations in Sea Isle, man.
He married into it.
But he also was the guy that put together that list of the top 10 quarterbacks for 7 different attributes of quarterback play. And remember, Jalen Hurts only came in the top 10 in 2 of those spots, rushing ability and second read. Rushing ability, he was 4th. Second read, he was 8th. We want to talk to him about it and see, does that correlate to his opinion on where Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback? Because Will Levis was on a top 10 in one of those categories. Gardner Minshew was on a top 10. Geno Smith was in a top 10. I don't think he's making the case that those quarterbacks are better than Jalen Hurts. So I'll be curious to see Dan Orlovsky's belief of Jalen Hurts after he did that. He took the time to put that together. Did that add or subtract his belief of Jalen Hurts being the franchise quarterback that we saw be a runner-up for MVP just 2 years ago? So that's coming your way, your 8 o'clock hour. Adam Shefter, followed by Dan Orlovsky. Of course, the Phillies conversation is still on the table. We're going to get to more text messages and calls in a second. You can text in, you can call in at 610-632-0975. And our Phillies question is there any answers? And I see a caller that I can't wait to get to later on this segment that has a response to that. Now, I want to read this article to you.
Okay.
And it was something that I found pretty interesting about the upcoming NFL season. And they broke down the tiers of the teams in the NFC on CBS.
Not tiers, T-E-A-R-S, because we had a lot of them last January.
Yeah, we had a lot. Dude, I had that last night watching.
Oh, my gosh.
Watching the Phillies play, man.
There's no crying in baseball.
Last night I was angry going to bed.
Yeah.
And that is never me.
So yesterday, I read this article this morning. It came out yesterday. And they were breaking down the tiers of the NFC on CBS. And tier 1 was NFC champion contenders. And then tier 2 was kind of like, the step up behind. And the Eagles were on that tier 2. They weren't on tier 1.
Okay, I'm not
with the San Francisco 49ers, okay. The Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions.
The Green Bay Packers are not a tier 1 team. Based on what? Like, based on what? It's ridiculous. That's immediately, and again, and it is a character flaw of mine. If I hear one thing in an argument,
you're out.
That is so absurd and ridiculous that I get, and it's not based in facts. I'm like, okay, come on.
Here were the 5 tiers.
Okay.
Tier 5, the lowest one. How many days until the 2025 NFL draft? I think that's a great tier, right? And that included the New York Giants, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Carolina Panthers.
I disagree on the Arizona Cardinals, I'll tell you.
Well, that's your boys' team.
Yeah,
I disagree.
Right.
I think that they will be.
You got heart eye emoji on JG. Okay. Wild card wilderness.
Okay.
Is tier 4. He has the Bears, the Saints, Seahawks, Vikings, and Commanders. And you think
I seen Saints, Vikings,
Commanders.
I think the Saints and Vikings are in the bottom tier. The absolute bottom
I also wonder, does this change for the Vikings with the J.J. McCarthy injury? Again, this article comes out yesterday before all that news comes out.
I didn't think J.J. McCarthy was going to help them win anything this year. I thought they were the 4th place team in their division anyway.
Tier 3, happy to be here, division winners. It's between 2, and it's in the same division, Bucks and Falcons. Right? They're both fighting for that division, and they'll be the best of the worst division in the NFC.
I think Atlanta's clearly better than Tampa.
I agree with you. Yes. And then tier 2, which is where I told you the Eagles are on, it's fringe contenders.
Fringe contenders?
Cowboys, Eagles, Rams, tier 1 being real deal contenders, 49ers, Packers, Lions. How are the Eagles not considered a real deal contender? And it's not like he's only coming up with 3 per tier. The bottom tier had 5 teams. The 4th tier had 7 teams. So it doesn't mean like CBS could only have put 3 people in the real deal contenders in the NFC. How are the Packers and Lions considered real deal contenders. I get the Lions. They're in the NFC Championship game last year.
I think the Lions are a real deal contender. I do not think the Packers have proven enough to be there.
And if the Packers are, if this guy, Garrett Podell, if Garrett believes that the Packers are real deal contenders, fine. But how in the same breath can you tell me that the Eagles aren't?
That makes no sense.
I know how Garrett got there. He picked up at the end of the postseason last year. And he has not clearly taken note of what teams have done this offseason to move them into a different spot. Because if you looked at where the Eagles were last year and you just saw like the acquisitions of players and you just said, oh, well, they might still have the same problems from the collapse, I could get how you get there. And I also get how you can watch the Packers in the postseason last year and how Jordan Love played and say, oh, I could see this team taking another step because you just look at the quarterback. But what you don't see is the coaching staff changes. You don't hear the buzz out of camp. You don't hear the relationship between the quarterback and the coach sounding to be in a better spot. And we know that to be the case now. So we know the Eagles deserve to be higher.
What is this written explanation on the Eagles?
I was about to read it
because I want to hear that.
In Philadelphia, the Eagles replaced their offensive coordinator by letting go Brian Johnson, hiring Kellen Moore, and their defensive coordinator, firing Sean Desai and Matt Patricia, and replacing them with Vic Fangio. Coach Nick Sirianni's retooled staff once again boasts one of the better rosters in football. Should Philly's offense play more like it did in 2022 with running back Saquon Barkley in the backfield alongside quarterback Jalen Hurts, the Eagles could make a deep playoff run. They're relying on untested youth at corner with Keely Ringo and rookies Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean expected to play big roles, which will be something to monitor. That was the end of it. He doesn't mention Isaiah Rodgers being in the running for the other quarterback job, which that's fine. The guy didn't play football last year.
I don't hate it as much when I hear how he.
But here's the thing. All right,
I honestly,
it is more fair than I
wanted to hate it. I don't hate it as much.
But here's the thing. Look, the write up. Fair. But there's a drop-off from real deal contender to fringe.
Okay, what does he say about Green Bay?
Yes,
Read me Green Bay's.
All right, the Green Bay Packers. He writes, the youth movement resulted in immediate dividends with the 2023 group that had an average of 25 years and 114 days, becoming the youngest team with a postseason game since the AFL-NFL merger in the 70s. The youth movement was powered by quarterback Jordan Love's ascendance in the second half of the season, following 3 years marinating on the bench behind Aaron Rodgers. He gives a bunch of statistics, compares him to Patrick Mahomes, blah.
Okay, that's I'm off.
He mentions the addition of Josh Jacobs, and then he says
Jacobs.
Defensively swapping out the zone-heavy scheme of Joe Barry for the aggressive man coverage-heavy scheme of new defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley may be exactly what the Packers need. He mentioned Xavier McKinney, which was a great addition to that team.
What's the name on the defense coordinator?
Jeff Hafley.
Is he the Boston College guy? I gotta Google him. I don't know well enough, but I mean seriously, he's betting on
Boston College. You're right.
It is okay. Yeah, he's a very good coordinator. But are you kidding me?
But here's so like the write up for the Eagles is fair, but when I see a tier, and maybe I'm reading too much into the tiers, real deal contender to fringe, I believe the Rams are perfect to be considered a fringe contender. I could see the Rams get hot with Sean McVay, Matt Stafford. I could also see Matt Stafford's body blow up this season and it be over, right? Like, because it's come close to it twice. Remember, his elbow was basically dead.
It was
2 years ago, and all of a sudden here he is. He's back. The Dallas Cowboys, I see as a fringe contender because they have a lot of talent. They just have a lot of turmoil in Dallas every single year. I know the Eagles had turmoil last season, and we're expecting that to be fixed, I think. But in terms of the overall talent, I don't know.
Yeah, I do not believe.
Am I too close to the situation? Like, are the Eagles very similar to the Cowboys, where they are both very top heavy? No, in terms of top heavy,
they're not. No, they're not. They're not.
Okay.
I mean, the Cowboys.
Then they shouldn't be considered fringe. The Eagles should not be considered fringe.
The Green Bay is the darling of the preseason. And I believe the Eagles will beat them in the opening game. But I think they're a really, really good team, and they're on the ascension. And I think Matt LaFleur, I know him to be a really smart guy. So I think he's a talented guy. That's way too overvaluing. If you're going to overvalue Green Bay like that,
you got to overvalue. You got to value the Eagles a certain way too.
That's crazy to me.
Let's go to Nick and Manayunk. Nick, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hi, Nick.
Salciunas, John, Connor, good morning.
Good morning.
Listen, man, I know it's been a little rough. You're trying to enjoy the Phillies with your kiddo, and you can't because they're miserable to watch.
I have, for the first time in my life, no words about this team. I don't know what you do. I honestly do not know what you do. But I'll say this: the approaches at the plate have been horrible. If I got to watch JT on his knee not go down and block a ball and let another pace ball by him, I'm going to scream. I am miserable. I am miserable right now.
There's so much to point to. Like the JT Realmuto being down on one knee thing is such a small thing, but it freaking bothers me. And this is a guy who's an excellent catcher, right? He's still an excellent catcher.
He's not an excellent catcher anymore. That's not true.
He is, John.
He's still an excellent catcher. He's still Nick. I don't want to take up your time, but I hear you. Like every little detail right now is
starts
bothering
to get to it. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's miserable. And I mean, listen, from little league to the major leagues, you talk about flipping a switch, and these guys are professionals and all, and they're different than us, but you can't just flip the switch. It just doesn't work like that. It really doesn't.
And we've seen that forever. Now, in baseball and in hockey, we have seen it. Thanks for the call, Boyle. You keep on protecting the great people of Manioc. Firefighter.
Love that.
Nick is.
Good job, Nick.
Look, we've seen teams get hot. It's just we're at a time right now.
And we've seen a lot of this group get hot.
Right. But what John Kruk said, that audio that we played for you earlier, and we can play it again coming up in a little bit, you don't know when the day is coming that they're going to finally get out of it. Because they've done nothing for you to say, oh, they're finally out of it. We thought that last week, and they're right back to where they were. Don't forget, 8 o'clock, Adam Shefter, followed by Dan Orlovsky, all in one segment. Can't wait for it. It's a busy day today on Kincade and Salciunas. But more of your Phillies reaction as well on the text line, the phone line, right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Kincade and Salciunas, weekday morning 6 to 10. Conversations that will make you think are here. 97.5.
Adam Shefter on this Wednesday morning will be joining us coming up at 8 o'clock, followed by Dan Orlovsky. So in the same segment, Shefty and Orlovsky, we double dip with the ESPN connections because Dan Orlovsky led to a lot of conversation.
He did.
On the station yesterday. I know Mike was talking about it with Bill and Ray. I know the best show ever was talking about it yesterday as well. And I'm looking forward to talking to Dan about it because my biggest question for him is when he broke it down the way that he did. And I don't think this was something that like you even said it yesterday. It didn't take him 5 minutes to do this. This was something that was very well thought out. He watched a lot of film. He obviously covers the league. He talks quarterbacks all the time on ESPN for every single show imaginable on ESPN. I'm sure he even does a hit on NBA Live and talks about the quarterbacks, right? Does this change his opinion on Jalen Hurts when he broke it down this way? I still believe Jalen Hurts is the top 10 quarterback, and he came in the top 10 only twice out of these 7 attributes.
The weird thing is that I've always thought of Dan Orlovsky, and I'm a big NFL Live guy, so I do. I'll DVR it every day, and then I'll skim through and see what the content is. I always think of him as a big Hurts fan.
Right.
But then I read that analysis, and that's what I want to get to the bottom with Dan. Where does he stand?
Right, because I'm curious, and I wonder if this helps or hurts Jalen Hurts' case in terms of being a top 10 quarterback. I get it. It's a list, right? It can change. The things he says about Jalen Hurts today, the things that executives and coaches say about Jalen Hurts today could completely change next year.
Yes.
But I would like to just dive deeper into that. So we'll speak with Dan coming up in the next segment following our Wednesday conversation with Adam Shefter. But I want to check out the text line today because I know people are hot and bothered by the Phillies today, as you rightfully should be. It was another pitiful, lifeless performance yesterday. 3 straight games of lifeless baseball out of your Philadelphia Phillies, 2 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and yesterday against a team that literally got rid of anybody they could possibly try to get rid of before the trade deadline, before the season started, and you lose to them, and you get shut out by them, and you put together 4 hits against a guy that nobody's ever heard of. What do we have on the text line, Connor?
We have first-time texter Tyler who says, I believe they need to send a message and sit Stott for 2 to 3 games, put Sosa in there at second base, and get Weston Wilson some starts in left field because Marsh has been absolutely terrible out there. That's what he would change.
I mean, look, at this point, once more, Bryce Harper could be 0 for 100. You're not going to take him out of the order. But guys like Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott, yeah, why not? Why not?
I don't hate that.
Like, Bryson Stott's not doing anything.
Brandon Marsh should not have enough. He does not have if Rob Thompson is obsessed with these baseball cards, Stott and Marsh don't have enough on the back of their baseball cards to give them the amount of grace that he's decided to give them.
Yeah, but you're doing the Taijuan Walker thing we got mad at Andrew about because, like, who are the guys that you're playing in place of them? They're not Major League Baseball players. Like Weston Wilson, I like Weston Wilson. He's not a Major League Baseball player. He's a quad A guy. He can be its points. Same with Cal Stevenson. Like, these guys do not have any Major League track record. Compared to,
I believe Edmundo Sosa has track record.
Sosa, I'm not talking about. Sosa's right.
But if you played him every single day, like I do think Edmundo Sosa would probably be exposed a little bit if you played him every single day.
Well, when he played almost every day for Trey Turner,
he was great, dude.
He arguably was one of their best hitters,
and that's why he deserves. That's why he deserves every single shot to play over Bryson Stott right now. And you know what? I'll give him a shot against a right-handed pitcher. I don't care.
Then they shelved him. Then they literally just said, oh, thanks for your time.
Because I get it. Like, where else were you going to play him?
With Stott.
Well, now
they're doing it.
Right, now they're starting to do it. Right.
They kept just trotting Stott out. It's got to work out at some point. It's got to work. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Not when the approach. All of a sudden, he used to have the best at-bats.
Right.
Bryson Stott used to have the best at-bats on the team.
Not anymore,
this year, he's arguably having some of the worst.
But that's why they gave him the leeway. Because he used
they did, but it went on way too long.
Well,
way too long a leeway.
Did it? Because they're still, like, you have to look at where they're at in the division. And I know this is like, I'm not trying to say the Phillies are fine. But if you're in that building, you say we built up a lead. We have time to figure it out. The thing you're doing if you're Rob Thompson
Then why did they cut bait on their best defensive player who actually was doing better at the plate and is the best defensive player in the team? Why not the patience then to say that?
To send when they sent Rojas down, you're saying?
No, or just even play him more when he's up here.
Listen, I agree with you on that one. I do, but I don't know what to tell you.
I don't understand why one guy.
You know what honestly comes down to, and this could be wrong.
Okay,
is the ceiling of production.
That's exactly it.
Brandon Marsh could hit a home run. Johan Rojas can't.
You are absolutely correct on that one.
And that doesn't mean it's right.
You can't, at some point, though, you got to stop clinging to that. At some point, you need to stop because it's not working.
Yeah, but
Brandon Marsh's at-bats are some of the worst in Major League Baseball. He is one of the worst batters in baseball.
Yeah.
At swinging at balls outside the zone.
You have 4 guys on this Phillies team with at least 100 strikeouts, right? Bryce Harper, 100 on the dot in 459 plate appearances. Nick Castellanos, 103 in 491 plate appearances, right? So actually, Bryce Harper's striking out at a more percentage clip than Nick Castellanos this year. And how much do we complain about Castellanos and the swinging out of the zone?
He is.
Kyle Schwarber, 137 strikeouts and 502 plate appearances. You expect that to happen out of Kyle Schwarber, but he's got you 27 home runs. Yes. He's hitting 254, by the way. Brandon Marsh is second on the team with 115 strikeouts. So 12 more than Castellanos, 15 more than Harper.
Less at-bats.
And just 22 less than Kyle Schwarber.
How many at-bats?
306 at-bats.
That's ridiculous.
347 plate appearances.
But Rob Thompson keeps pushing that button.
Well.
So when we say, what can you do differently? He's killing you.
He has 112 less at-bats than Bryce Harper. And he has 15 more strikeouts. Now, I get it. Bryce Harper versus Brandon Marsh. Obviously,
you got it.
I expect more out of Bryce Harper. But he has 155 less at-bats than Kyle Schwarber. 155 less at-bats. And he's just 22 strikeouts behind him.
Yes, but okay, so you sit Brandon Marsh. Who plays left field?
I get it. It's a day or two.
Okay,
you just got to try something.
I understand a day or two. But, if you're Rob Thompson and you're seeing 2 guys that are basically career AAA players, and you're seeing a guy, the thing you got to remember about Brandon Marsh is this is not the player that he always is. It's the player he's been for a long stretch, and there's no guarantees coming out of it this year. But he was one of your more consistent hitters in the biggest spots last year in the postseason. He was arguably the only guy in the NLCS that had a consistently good series.
And I've pointed that out.
So, I'm not saying that's, give him a blank check. But you have to bring up who would possibly play over him, and they don't have a good option.
By the way, Donnie took the time to do some homework for me. I don't know this baseball savant. I'm not. It's too much. He said best pop time in baseball behind the plate is JT Realmuto, but he's 61st in blocks above average. He's not in the top 30 in framing, and in caught stealing above average. Stubbs is 12th in Major League Baseball. Realmuto is 17th.
All right.
And I don't know that site. So I don't know if that site is something that's
I still believe he's an excellent defensive catcher.
The numbers don't say it. Let's put it that way.
All right.
You need more than numbers for baseball defense, Johnny.
Yep. All right. Coming up next, Adam Shefter joins us to start the 8 o'clock hour, followed by Dan Orlovsky. So a big segment coming your way next. You do not want to miss a second of it. A lot of great Eagles talk and NFL talk with 2 bright NFL minds, Shefty, Orlovsky, on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Eagles have a strong joint practice.
It's 97.5 The Fanatic on this Wednesday morning. So you know at 8 o'clock we are always joined by a great NFL man on the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business get you ready for what's next. And he's brought to us by Landis Block. Create your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise online at landisbc.com. But he's not in his own backyard paradise right now. Adam Shefter is live from a hotel. Shefty, where are we at today?
I am sitting at the front desk in the lobby of the Eagles Hotel in Massachusetts on assignment here. We rolled in last night, and it's something that's going to run on ESPN here in the coming months at some point in time. I guess I could tell you.
Yes.
The thing is, it's a surprise to the players.
Oh, well, then don't screw it.
In about an hour. So someone may be listening, and then word could filter back, and then maybe I'll tell you more about it next week.
Okay.
This, right? But I'll just say this. We got into the hotel last night and checked into the hotel. It was about 11:15. Was standing there in the lobby, and then all of a sudden, Kenny Pickett walked in, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, bunch of the guys, talking to them in the lobby last night. It was kind of fun. So we're sitting here this morning. All the guys are walking by, going to breakfast, doing their thing. And we got something going on here at 9 a.m., and that'll run on ESPN at some point. I don't know when this season, but it'll run, and I'll tell you all about it next week because I know it's going to be memorable. How about that?
The preseason's been memorable so far for the Eagles in that, honestly, Philly, which is usually looking to pick apart the carcass, seems to be pretty positive on how the offense is looking smooth and, honestly, how the defense is coming together under Vic Fangio. What are you hearing, and have you had a chance to put your ear to the ground on any of this Eagles stuff?
I was just with Vic. Literally,
that's awesome.
Hey, I got to go call into the radio show, Vic. So, you know what I just discovered about Vic? We were talking a lot about golf just now. I didn't realize that he's as big a golfer as he is. So I will open it up. Anybody that wants to take Vic Fangio out golfing there to the great courses in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia area, I'm sure he'd be open to that right now.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, because I said, where do you play? He said, wherever takes me out. I said, okay, well, there you go, Vic. I think they feel pretty good about this team. They're pretty happy with where it's at right now. They feel like it's progressing. There's still some work that they got to get done here, that they'll be doing here, obviously. Going up against the Patriots, again today, and then the game tomorrow night. A short preseason week. They get those games, especially the week of joint practices, don't really mean much of anything. That's a game for the backup of the backups. Like, that's what that is after the joint practice work, where the coaches can control it more. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, by all accounts, they feel like they've played pretty well against the Patriots, shined, whatever that's worth, right? Who knows? But I think they feel pretty good about this team right now.
All right, so how's the morale of the team? You got to talk to some of the players. We've obviously moved on from last year. Last week we did talk to you about the article that came out from Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler, but I told you, John and I were using that as a positive, that it seemed like everything is done. It's now out in the open. It's almost like a weight is off our shoulders. We now know what happened. So how was the morale? Some of the players that you got to speak to so far last night and this morning?
They do feel good about this team. But, again, I guarantee if I went around to 32 camps, most everybody would feel good about the team. I was on the phone with somebody from the Patriots last week, and they were insisting to me, I think we're going to be a little bit better than people think. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see about that. They might be. I don't know. We'll see. But my point is, if New England's saying that, everybody's saying that. So if I walked in here last night, and I'm talking to some of the guys, and I see some of the guys this morning, I'm talking to them, and somebody said, boy, I don't know, this camp, I don't know, this team's got some questions. You don't hear that in August. It's not really what you hear too much. Everything is more upbeat, more positive, more promising, more optimistic. People feel good about things. So I wouldn't expect to hear anything different. But to that point, it was exactly what I did here. This team's really good. Like the guys last night were saying, Saquon, wow, like better than we thought. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Again, I think those are the things you expect to hear. That's the exciting part about training camp from a fan's perspective, from the media's perspective. You want to hear about guys that are shining and impressing and making their mark. And, the players, they don't love the training camp element of it, but they can recognize that, a player like Saquon, in their minds, is probably better than was advertised.
How great is Howie Roseman's trade of, moving off of Hassan Reddick looking today? When we look back at it too, tell me if I'm reading too much into something. I went back and I just checked. I didn't see any of his Eagle teammates saying, like, when he left, "We're going to miss you, bro. Hate losing you. Thanks for the run. Can't miss it." Usually you see that when guys leave teams. Am I reading too much into it?
Do you? I don't know. I don't see too much of that.
Well, I usually see best wishes to guys when they leave. Go get your bag. Go get your bag. You deserve it. Anything like that. It didn't seem like that. Very quiet.
Well, I didn't pay attention to the social reaction when Hassan was traded, but I would just say this, like, Howie Roseman and Joe Douglas are good friends. And, I think that they're making a trade that they both believe at that time is going to work out for both sides. And the Hassan Reddick situation is just, I think it's unfortunate for the Jets and Hassan Reddick together, because he goes in there after the trade and he goes and takes his physical with the team, and he goes to the introductory press conference and speaks highly about the Jets organization. And that was the last that the Jets saw and heard from him. That was it.
And he lied. He said that I'm going to be here. Whatever works out, I'm going to give my best because that's who I am as a man.
Right. I'm happy.
Yes.
And, right, whatever he said has not been the way it's worked out. Now, again, the Jets would say exactly what you said, John. And I think Hassan would say, well, at that point in time, the Jets told me something was going to get worked out. Of course I was behind them. Of course I was going to be happy because I thought it was going to work out. And since then, they haven't made me an offer at all. And I've watched the pass rush market explode. And I'm making $14.25 million, and the top pass rushers in the league are making more than double that. So I'm not happy, and I'm not showing up. Now, again, do I think that the situation could have been different? Yeah. Like, it shouldn't have gotten to this from both sides' standpoint, in my mind. The Jets should have been more proactive about getting a deal done, or at least finding something that worked for Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick should have been more willing, I think, to show up and work with them. But this is where they went. And frankly, it didn't work out for either side to date. So the question that I come back to is, what do they do to solve this? Because right now it's a game of chicken. Who's going to blink first? Jets say, we're not doing anything with you not being here. He's like, I'm not coming there. You're not doing anything. So there has to be some sort of Madeleine Albright figure that can step in and broker a peace agreement between these two sides. Right?
Good reference.
I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate for both because neither side comes out ahead in this, and it's very messy. And honestly, somebody who lives in New York or around Jets fans, I think there's something that always happens with the Jets like this. They don't need any more things like this, and here it goes again. So we'll see if the two sides can figure out anything, but the Eagles moved on, and they knew this was coming, and that's how it worked out.
Speaking of Adam Shefter on the Comcast Business Hotline, Shefter, I do want to ask you something non-Eagle related, even though there might be Eagles involved. How possible, I know we're looking 4 years down the line now, how possible could there be NFL players playing in the flag football portion of the Olympics in L.A. in 2028?
It's a great question. And look, I guess basketball players, they're taking risks when they go out there. And I was in Hawaii. I was outside the hotel in Hawaii when the Patriots' first-round draft pick, Robert Edwards, coming off his incredible rookie year, basically blew out his knee playing football in the sand, flag football in the sand. And so, on the one hand, I say, I'll bet some of these players would love to take part in the festivities. Like, just think if flag football somehow were a part of the Paris Olympics, would those guys have loved hanging with the basketball players, and the basketball players loved hanging with the football players, and all the things like, yeah, I think there's an element to that is absolutely true. But then I say, would any NFL head coach, general manager want their guy taking part in that? Well, first of all, you got training camp.
Right, exactly.
Like
it's happening during camp.
Yeah, so right then and there, that's not happening. The timing doesn't work. They're not adjusting the timing of Olympic flag football. So that makes it, I guess, a moot point. But, I mean, it's fun to think about what it would be like and who would want to partake. But I don't know.
I don't think people would. I don't think people would go for it. Like I know there are some NFL players that are pushing for it that would love to be a part of it. Jalen Hurts has been vocal about it, wanting to be a part of it. I just don't see how Jeffrey Lurie would say, "Okay, yeah, don't do training camp."
Yeah, you heard Jalen. Well, the Bears let Jonathan Owens go for a week to go,
just to go watch, watch his wife.
Watch his wife. So, but yeah, again. That's Jonathan Owens, a safety and special teams guy. You're not talking about the quarterback.
Right.
So I don't see it taking the league by storm. I don't rule it out, but the timing of it makes it a little bit more problematic, I think, obviously.
Shefty, you're the man. We appreciate it as always. Make sure next week you give us
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
A little something about this special event that's going on.
Or text us after.
No. I maybe you want it's 8:15. Like, I don't think I'm giving it.
Okay, not going to give anything away.
Well, no. I mean, I better just lay low for 1 week. I'll share.
Well, that's a good tease. That means people have to be listening next week. They already do, Shefty, but now they have to be listening next week to find out what's going on at the Eagles team hotel in Foxborough.
Thanks, Shefty.
Adam, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
There he is, Adam Shefter on the Comcast Business Hotline. He was close.
He was this close to spilling the beans.
And he's brought to us by Landis Block, your very own jaw-dropping backyard paradise, online at landisbc.com. So pretty cool that the day we have Adam Shefter on, even though we have him on every single Wednesday, he was live from the Eagles team hotel as they're taking on the Patriots in joint practice and, of course, preseason week number 2. So that's pretty cool of Shefty to give us that kind of information. And now, joining us on the Comcast Business Hotline. I told you we were double dipping with ESPN. We go from Adam Shefter on the Comcast Business Hotline to a great quarterback mind. Dan Orlovsky joins us. Danny, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Good morning. How are you guys?
Great. We appreciate you coming on. We appreciate for the daily content yesterday. As all 3 shows on our station, all 4 shows on our station, we're going through your list yesterday. And first off, we want to give you credit because it's different. It's not just, here are my top 10 quarterbacks. We appreciate the way that you did it, where you broke down the 7 different attributes of quarterback play. So the kudos to you for doing that. But what we want to do is try to figure out, Jalen Hurts was only in the top 10 for 2 of those categories.
Yep.
What does that mean, in your opinion, of Jalen Hurts as the overall quarterback? We were trying to figure that out yesterday.
Yeah, so right now Jalen, for me, is a little bit more of a question mark than a known commodity. And what I mean by that is, with a new offensive coordinator coming off of the season that he had, we don't know exactly how he's going to transition into this new offense and exactly who he is as a player. We have one unbelievably dominant season back in 2022 when he played at an MVP level, and everyone knows, and obviously in the Super Bowl, might have won Super Bowl MVP. And then last year was, I don't want to say the complete opposite of that, but a significant opposite of that, where he really struggled. And was he injured? Was he not? All that. And so we've got those 2 seasons that are kind of the opposites of each other, with a player going into a new offense. And for me, I'm sitting there going, okay, I want to see kind of what he is in this offense. Are they going to run him as much? All that. So, Jalen is, when I did the top 5 NFC quarterbacks a couple weeks ago, everyone lost their minds that both Dak Prescott and Jalen weren't in the top 5. And I had Goff and Cousins at 4 and 5, respectfully. And I was like, listen, you're probably taking those guys, specifically 3 or 4 of them, and interchanging them if you want. Jalen was in there the year before, coming off of the 22 season when he was unbelievable. But because of the performance of last year and some of the things that happened and the way that he played, I don't think he's top 5 right now, no.
Are you a believer that Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts is a good marriage?
I think on the surface, it's a good marriage, yes. Kellen's brilliant. I played with Kellen. I was with Kellen for a couple years just as backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and I've obviously followed his coaching career closely. I think some of the things that Kellen does, driving the football down the field, that's the identity of at least the Sirianni offense philosophically, is like throwing it early. Now, I've been adamant that they did that too much last year and chased. So, I like that. I like the play-action pass game. I think the two things that I'm really interested in is how well the blitz package or the blitz answer package develops. That's not something that Kellen's been notorious for, both in Dallas and LA. So, and that was a huge flaw of that offense in Philly last year. So how does that evolve between those two? And then how much is he going to run Jalen? That has to be a relatively significant part of his game. It's not something that Kellen's done a lot, both, again, in Dallas and L.A. And so for Jalen to be the player that he has in many times shown to be, that has to be a part of his game. So on the surface, I do like it, but I don't know those two answers yet.
Of the 7 quarterback attributes, you had Hurts in the top 10 for rushing ability and second reaction. The other 5, and I guess you could take arm strength out of it because you can't really just improve arm strength overnight. What's the thing that Jalen Hurts needs to do most to get back into the top 10 for you to say, all right, he's starting to get back to that quarterback out of those attributes that you gave us in your article?
Yeah, I'm definitely the ball placement and just pocket movement. Again, last year, I would have put him in probably the top 6 in both of those. Yeah, to a 22 season, I said he was the most improved football throw I've ever been around, as far as when it comes to that ball placement. And I think there was a little bit specific to ball placement. There was a little bit of a couple different things that forced the drop off in that last year. One, he definitely at times forced the football to AJ. And that's always a fine line because you want to get your guy the ball. As far as an offense, your dominant player. So there was definitely moments where you're just forcing it to him, and when you do that, you're not as free throwing the football. 2, didn't trust the pocket as much, and that led to missed throws and maybe not as pinpoint throw-wise. So getting a little bit more rhythm in that and back to that foundation. And then for that pocket movement, again, I probably would have had him in that top probably 6 or 7 in that as well, going off of the 22 season. Last year, I was very outspoken. I do not believe he trusted the offensive line and the pocket interior-wise as much as he did the year before, and so that forced him to either leave pockets that were good or hang in pockets that weren't. And so I think getting back to that stuff, I don't think it's necessarily like, oh my gosh, you have to improve. It's just getting back to being good at that over the course of the season, which he's shown the capability of doing.
From what you watched last year and maybe what you've heard, do you think the collapse of 2023 was a player issue, a coaching issue, and if both, who gets more blame?
I mean, it's always both. It's always both when you fall off that fast and that hard. Who gets more blame? I always say it's about the people on the field. When it was always, is it Tom or is it Bill when it comes to New England? It was like, dude, Tom was the guy on the field. So it's definitely a group. We both raise our hands, but if you're asking me, at the end of the day, guys got to go out and play and go do it on the field. And, defensively, those guys just didn't play up to their standard level, specifically on the back end, really outside of Darius. And then offensively, I said this, their offensive line was not nearly as dominant last year as it was the year before. And so, I do think at the end of the day, the players got to be the people that sit there and make it happen. but coaching certainly has a tremendous amount of impact on the capability of that. So, it fell apart, but on both parties.
Last thing before we let you go, Dan, we appreciate you finding some time coming on with us today. We hear this all the time, sometimes from the media, sometimes from Eagles fans, that Jalen Hurts would be a mediocre quarterback in any other offense, right? If he didn't have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert to throw to. We kind of talked about this yesterday. I could probably say, I can't say the same thing about all quarterbacks, but if I put Jalen Hurts in San Francisco, they still have great weapons. If I put Jalen Hurts in L.A., they got great wide receivers, great weapons. Right. What would you say to somebody that has that belief? Is there merit to it? Or would you say, hey, if you put him in other teams, there's other like he could still throw well to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle just like Tua?
No, Jalen would have a lot of success with the proper people around him. I do think it's fair to say, well, Jalen, and this goes back to my point, like you have to use him as an athlete. You have to use him as a runner. You can't try to make him Brock Purdy or Tua in regards to like the pinpoint anticipatory thrower. That's not who he is. He can have that as a part of his game, but it's not the identity of his game. For a long time in the NFL, people always said, well, this guy, the quarterback, elevates people around him. The wrong element of that is thinking that the quarterback, if he's good, really good, great, takes D players and makes them A players. That's not a real thing. Over the last 15 or 10 years or so, I philosophically have changed that thought process of mine and said, no. The people around the quarterback don't more often than not make him. And if you get a good quarterback with really good players around him, you get him to play production-wise at a really good or plus level. There's only so many guys that elevate everybody around them, and there's like 3 of them on the planet. Really, you're trying to get a good to really good player, and Jalen's proven to be absolutely that, and surround him with that, and then you get him to produce at an elite level.
Dan, you're the man. We really appreciate it. Thank you for finding some time to join us today. We'll be bugging you again down the road, but I know it's about to get really busy for you, so thank you as always for coming on.
All good. Always a pleasure, guys.
There he is, Dan Orlovsky from ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. All right, let's react to both Shefty and Orlovsky. I told you it was a big, beefy ESPN segment. Dan, not that high on Hurts, it seems.
Doesn't seem like it. I thought, and I misread it. A lot of questions. He's not like down on him. I think it's more along the lines of he has a lot of questions, and his questions were valid.
Let's dive into them. Coming up next, also Phillies talk still on the table. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
More on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this Wednesday morning. We want to thank Adam Shefter and Dan Orlovsky for joining us last segment. It was a busy Eagles segment. Coming up at 9:10, we normally do the 5 best minutes of Shefty, but Johnny Kincade, great producing on your part. And, of course, Brendan Gunn is going to be producing it, putting it together. But a great idea. Instead of doing 5 minutes of Shefty, it's going to be the best 5 minutes of both Shefter and Orlovsky. We'll combine the two, so probably 2.5 minutes of both, because there was a lot in there. And so let's talk about what Dan had to say. And don't worry, Phillies are still going to be discussed. Trust me, we're going to get more text messages. We're going to get more calls because what happened yesterday, again, third straight game of lifeless baseball out of your Philadelphia Phillies, at least on the offense, can't be ignored. But Orlovsky, we had him on, and it was to talk about the list that he put together. That was talked about by the Mike Missanelli show yesterday, the best show ever. We, of course, talked about it all morning yesterday. And I was curious, if you're not in the top 10 in multiple categories, what does that mean to Dan Orlovsky and his evaluation of that quarterback? Obviously, he probably thinks Patrick Mahomes is the number one quarterback in the NFL. He had him in 6 out of the 7 categories, right? There were a couple quarterbacks that were in 5 out of the 7. I wish we had more time with Dan, but obviously he's a busy man at ESPN. He was kind of down on Jalen.
I think so. I sort of felt that it was like he was almost saying, just show me. Show me.
Yeah, because he saw it 2 years ago. And he straight up said, look, if I did this list last year, he's probably higher. And that's why these lists, a lot of them are, what have you done for me lately? But it's not like, hey, he had a bad season statistically. It was, no, he did not put the ball in the right spot a lot of times last year. He was throwing into double coverage. The pocket presence one, he did roll right every time once he felt the slightest bit of pressure. He was rolling right. Whereas last year, or in 2022, start saying 2 years ago, he would step up into the pocket, make a deep throw downfield, right? Could it be the offensive coordinator? Maybe. Could it have been Nick Sirianni's offense? Maybe. Could it have been Jalen Hurts? I think everybody is partially to blame for what happened last season. But it did seem like he was a little down on Jalen Hurts, and he said something that I've said. Now, I believe Hurts is still a top 10 quarterback. But he did say what I've said a couple of times. He really only had one good year. In his 3 years as the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles.
No, he had a great year.
Sorry. He had an elite season and 2, years.
I think he had an elite season, a good season, and a mediocre season. Last year was a good season.
Yeah.
It was a good season last year.
Okay.
But it was a
eye test. You didn't feel it, though.
No, but it was still, by quarterbacking standards in the NFL, he absolutely had a good season.
Yeah, and the rest of the league, the quarterback play was down, right? I've talked about that all season last year, how quarterback play across the board last year was bad. So, in a top 10, did he play top 10 quarterback last year? Maybe he did. I don't know. We'd have to dive deeper into it. But he basically made the point of, look, he got paid for one amazing season. He got paid for an amazing Super Bowl performance, as he should have. At least he did that. Herbert's never done that. Trevor Lawrence has never done that. Guys that are getting paid left and right in the NFL have not done what Jalen Hurts has done. But that's kind of how he's looking at it. Like, he did it for one spectacular year out of 3.
Yeah, I've been actually pretty pleased with my quarterback for the last 2 years. Like, extremely pleased the year before.
Of course,
and I was pretty pleased last year. I was not thrilled with the way it ended, but...
No, but, like, you saw the flashes at points, less than we expected to, but you can tell there's still, like, the talent there. But I think something we need to come to terms with, I'll ask you guys this question. Is Jalen Hurts the hardest quarterback? And we're taking out rookies and second-year guys. Because, obviously, like, we don't know what Anthony Richardson is. We don't know what C.J. Stroud is going to be long-term. But, like, looking at guys that have been in the league for longer than a year, is Jalen Hurts the hardest quarterback to evaluate in the NFL?
I mean, that's hard, right? Because I think Lamar Jackson is the second best quarterback in the NFL. I've seen Lamar Jackson choke away in the playoffs, right? So, like,
but there's no denying the talent. Like, you know what Lamar's giving you every year. Like, you know the quarterback Lamar. Like, Josh Allen, you could question how good he is, but we know what Josh Allen is.
That guy, Josh Allen, is very talented. He just might not be bright at times.
Right, but there's no question about the talent. Like,
absolutely.
I think there is an argument that you could question everything about Jalen Hurts. You could question if he could throw at this level. You could question if he can lead at this level. You can question how he is as an overall quarterback at this level. And that's why it's so hard for us and for national reporters because
but you know what? Why does nobody question that stuff about Justin Herbert? Who's done nothing?
Yeah, Justin Herbert has done nothing. Jalen Hurts has done significantly more.
And Justin Herbert has a significantly better arm.
Because I think he fits the
mold.
He checks the boxes of the prototypical quarterback that would be on a Netflix show.
Yeah, he also gets the what if of being in a bad organization, as does Trevor Lawrence. You can always say, well, if he had this, well, if he had that. Jalen Hurts has everything.
They had to fire both coordinators last year. To me, I think Jalen Hurts was asked to come to a knife fight with a rock. Seriously, he didn't.
Rock sharp at least.
Last year for sure. But we saw him with everything in the world in 2022.
Yeah, but two different, and he had different coordinators. I think it was a lack of coordinators. I really do. I think
and that may have been it.
I'm telling you right now. I said it yesterday, and by the way, I did tweet it out.
No, I saw
I said 4,500-yard club, 30-plus touchdown club. I absolutely think we're going to have Jalen Hurts in the discussion for MVP in December.
I don't think that's crazy. I just think he's the great mystery box quarterback right now.
I totally get what you're saying.
That's fair.
Because he was a third, fourth round draft grade. He was drafted in the second round by the Eagles. It was to be a backup to Carson Wentz.
But he's a winner and a leader.
The Wentz saga happens. Hurts kind of has to play. Remember, you want to talk about what ifs. I like to remind Eagles fans that sometimes say, you didn't want Hurts. The Eagles didn't want Hurts 2 years ago. They tried to trade up for Zach Wilson. They tried to trade for Russell Wilson. They did put out a flyer for Aaron Rodgers. And thankfully, they didn't do any of those things, but they tried. Tried.
They did try.
It wasn't they just, hey, let's make a phone call. Hey, can we have Russ for a 7th-round pick? No. They tried. Russell Wilson didn't want to come here. Remember, he handpicked Denver.
No, he did.
They tried trading for a quarterback, and then Hurts exploded the scene.
Saved the Eagles.
Seriously.
She picked it.
And
thank God for her.
And then Hurts had an incredible season. But then last year, it wasn't as incredible. Good, but not as incredible. I found it interesting, some of the things Dan Orlovsky said, but I do believe
good stuff.
We got a tweet from somebody, D. Lowe, said, wait, so is Cousins better than Jalen Hurts? No. I don't believe Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
I would not want Kirk Cousins over Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely not. And he has him in his top 5 ahead of Jalen Hurts in the NFC. All right, coming up next, we get more text reaction to the Eagles discussions that we've had, but also the Phillies. We're not ignoring them. We'll talk more Phillies baseball coming your way next. It's Kincade and Salciunas right here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Oh, boy.
That was a good... I got to tell you, though, very rarely do we have a guest on when I sort of like, when we hang up, and I don't know if I feel good about what I heard. And I guess it's because I respect Dan a lot. And look, as Connor points out to us off air, Dan has his misses too.
Of course.
But I really...
Everybody does.
We all do.
But I really like... You've had a few this week, Connor. I really like this this analysis. It's interesting. There was something that Mike and Bill brought up yesterday on the Mike Missanelli show, that this list should have been stopped at 3.
Yeah, going 10 is tough.
Because I think I'm getting bogged down, my mind, I'm getting bogged down into, wait a minute. If Hurts wasn't 1, 2, 3, or 4, even if we went 4, I wouldn't give a lot of this stuff second thought. But when I see him go, he's not even
10, yeah.
And I didn't want to get into it because it really didn't, it wouldn't serve our audience much. But I still think it's absolutely absurd that Josh Allen, who throws the ball around like a drunken sailor, somehow with ball placement. I don't get it.
But
he places the ball in opponents' hands like almost as much as anybody.
Right.
So you can't tell me he's good at ball placement.
But the thing is, like, I don't want to say forget Josh Allen, but if we're focusing strictly on Jalen Hurts does not have a top 10 arm strength in the NFL.
I have no issue with that.
Right?
Yeah.
Ball placement. So Josh Allen probably shouldn't be in it. You're right. Is Jalen Hurts the first guy? Is he 11th? Because on the article, Dan Orlovsky wrote that Aaron Rodgers would have been 11th. He was the first one out. So Hurts still isn't in a top 10 list, even if you don't agree with the name that's at 10. Mechanics, I don't care about. We've talked about that.
Yeah, well, I don't feel qualified enough to judge it.
Decision-making with the football. He wasn't good with the football last year. He was great at it 2 years ago. Great at it, Jalen Hurts was. He was not last year. Are you putting him in the top 10 for decision-making? Again, forget some of the names. Even though if you look at the names, they're like Dak Prescott's maybe the only guy I would question. Other than that, every single name on there ahead of Jalen Hurts makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. I think I get bogged down in his piece now that I think of it. I'm getting bogged down because of something, again, that Mike and Bill brought up yesterday. If that list stopped at 4, I would have read it, been entertained, and everything. I'm getting bogged down in the idea that, wait a minute, he doesn't have him in the top 10 here or whatever.
Yeah, and he didn't really think that highly of him when we were talking about it. You can hear that interview again on 97.5thefanatic.com. I think he likes Jalen Hurts. I think he just needs to see a lot this season. Don't forget, we're also talking about the Phillies and their loss yesterday. It's funny. The Jalen Hurts conversation with Dan Orlovsky wasn't like a promising conversation, but it was refreshing to not talk about the Phillies for 20 minutes, that segment. But what do we got on the text line, Connor, about our fightings? We'll go to the phones as well.
We have a lot of people still upset.
Good.
The most recent text here we've got said to John last night on X, no name on this texter. The problem is you have $1 billion offense. What more can you really do? If we're going to be drastic, I'm going to send Stott and Marsh down for whatever is left in the minor league season, and I'm also going to load manage JT.
Well, here's the thing. So if you're going to load manage JT, if that is a legitimate plan, let's say he's Rob Thompson or Dave Dombrowski. Stubbs goes down, Marchand comes up. I get Stubbs stays. I don't agree with it. Stubbs stays up because he has to play once in a blue moon and be there for the DJ. If you're actually going to play, let's say you play 7 games a week, no off day, and Real Muto's only going to play in 4 of them, that means you have to have the better backup catcher up on the team.
Yeah.
Any exception?
Well, you would. No, there's none to that.
And then the sending down Marsh and Stott.
You can't. First of all, you can't. You could. Well,
I don't know what their options are.
I'm sure there might be. I don't know.
You're not doing
that.
On if they started out the gate 0 for 50. Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
it's August 14th.
Here's the other thing, too, right? Like, Marchand came into the season with 1 minor league option. They used it when they sent him down.
Yeah.
So if he comes back up, he's up.
Yeah.
And
that's fine.
Yeah, we say that, but, like, postseason.
All right, Stubbs can be there in the clubhouse. He's just not dressed.
Okay,
he can be there for the vibes.
Seriously,
stop. Come on, he's not. They're not going to stand him in the corner of the clubhouse like a mascot. My point is, if
he kind of is
a mascot now.
If he's playing right now. If Marchand comes back up and a young player who we saw a great stretch of struggles. I mean, we saw Bryson Stott great for a year. He struggled. We saw Alec Boehm have really good moments. He struggled. You don't have a way to send him back down. So if you're calling Marchand up, he's your guy to play consistently. And if that goes poorly, you have no other option.
Here's what I'm going to say to you, though, where the only thing that I'll disagree about what you're saying, I haven't seen Bryson Stott great for a year.
You don't think he was great in 2023?
He had a good season last year.
He had options. Last year to me, I was really, really impressed with a lot of what I saw. I'm great with the glove.
He was a Gold Glove finalist last year who hit close to 300.
Great with the glove. I don't know what he had. I thought he was more like 270 something.
280.
280? Okay. I don't know. I think, and I know this, going into the year, I never saw this coming with Stott.
Oh, no, it's been a horrible season.
So I never saw that. So I'm not going to blame Dave Dombrowski for saying, I think I got an answer at second base, which people were doing earlier on.
But at this point, he does not deserve to be in the starting lineup every single day. And they're already starting to not do that. But honestly, I'd probably give him a day off against a right-handed pitcher, too. I don't care. He's been abysmal. 3 for his last, what did I say earlier, 31?
Oh, it's terrible.
That's horrible.
No, 33.
3 for his last 33, and that's just the month of August, where he's hitting under 100. All right, 9:10. We do the best 5 minutes of a combo of Shefty and Orlovsky. Before that, we get to more of your calls and your texts about the Phillies and the Eagles. Your reaction to what Orlovsky said about Jalen Hurts. Interesting. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. 9:01 on Kincade and Salciunas. Yes, the Mike Missanelli Show coming your way up at 10 o'clock with Bill Colarulo and Ray Dunn. Coming up at 9:10, you'll hear the best 5 minutes of our combination of Adam Shefter and Dan Orlovsky. Normally it's just Shefty, but normally on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, that 8 to 8:21 segment, it's just Shefty. And then today's headlines. Today's headlines got the boot today. I apologize.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Dan Orlovsky said, you know what? Screw today's headlines.
Orlovsky Thomas.
You know what he said? No, Dan Orlovsky
Thomas.
called me and said, I'll create the headlines.
I'd like to see him talk about a haunted hotel that Mookie Betts is scared of. I don't think he's got that in his bag.
By the way,
he might not.
The amount of people, I saw an online post about that yesterday. The amount of people that felt the way I do. Like, that's really bizarre.
Hey.
Like, people are afraid of things.
Yeah.
I don't like roaches.
All right.
Like if there was a hotel room and there were roaches in the hotel room, I would freaking
You're out.
grab my stuff and leave.
And maybe Mookie likes roaches.
I'd sleep in a car before I do that. So,
you know, I like a roach.
I like a roach
occasionally.
every once.
Yeah.
well, no, not that kind of roach, Andrew. Not that kind of roach.
You know.
The 8-legged kind or
Teach his
10-legged.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. What do you mean?
There we go.
All right, so before we get to our best 5 minutes of Shefty and Orlovsky, I want to give the people an opportunity to talk. I want to get some reaction to the Orlovsky and Shefter thing, or the Orlovsky conversation about Jalen Hurts. But obviously, Phillies are on the table as well. Let's start with the Jalen Hurts discussion. Let's go to Silver in Germantown. Silver, you're on the Fanatic.
Yeah, it's going on, fellas. So Mr. Orlovsky, I just want to say, like, I don't agree with your ratings and stuff because, you know, you never played meaningful football, so I'm not going to get into none of that.
All right,
but he's played a lot more than you have.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Like,
how can you call him into question?
He is an NFL player. Like, come on.
All right, but so he said that Jalen Hurts is not even in the top 10 now.
That's what he believes. And he made a solid case. No, made a top 10 in a lot of different categories.
Like arm strength. He doesn't have him as a top 10 quarterback, and I don't disagree with him.
Okay, that's arm strength don't mean you're the best. Just because you had the best arm don't mean you're the best.
And he didn't say it did.
He didn't say that.
He's talking about it. I think you're reading it wrong, or you're hearing it wrong. What he said.
All right. Well, my opinion is that Jalen Hurts is better than Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, and Brock Purdy. And Kirk Cousins.
Wow.
I agree with you with 3 of the 4. Jared Goff, we have to see. Because he has had a lot of pedigree in the NFL. I would like to agree with you, Silver.
And Dak has owned the Eagles.
Yeah, but you would take Jalen over Dak.
Yeah, it's tight, though.
Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and maybe Joe Burrow. That's the 3 quarterbacks.
I don't think you're unreasonable.
No.
I don't think you're an unreasonable guy with that.
And I might even take Hurts over Burrow, you know, for the leadership.
Yeah.
Well, and health. Obviously, Joe Burrow's been banged up a lot.
One of the greatest Super Bowl performances ever.
I loved it.
Super Bowl history.
I loved it.
Yeah, dude, Silver, you're right, and I do think, as John said, you might be reading a little too much into the
left the field with the tie, and if the defense doesn't collapse in that last drive.
Yeah, they might win the Super Bowl. Silver. Yeah, damn right, man. We appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, look, Dan Orlovsky's not saying that Jalen Hurts stinks. He broke down 7 different attributes of a quarterback, and he only had him in the top 10 for 2 of them. That does not make him think he's not a top 10 quarterback. Like, again, Will Levis is on the top 10 for arm strength. I don't believe that Dan Orlovsky, I didn't ask him, but I imagine he does not have Will Levis ahead of Jalen Hurts.
I don't think he does.
But I imagine some of the constants, the names that continuously pop up on this list, Patrick Mahomes, he probably has him ahead of Jalen Hurts.
And he should.
Matt Stafford, he probably has him ahead of Jalen Hurts. He probably has Josh Allen ahead of Jalen Hurts, which I know that might be something that we can debate here locally, but this is a guy that's looking at it from a national view. Now, we can't do the whole, I literally made this joke yesterday, but I was serious about it. People, when they hear Dan Orlovsky said this, they go, oh, who, the guy that stepped out of the end zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, in an NFL game, which is more than any of us did.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough of that. I can't believe somebody's going, well, Dan Orlovsky never played. If you're critiquing Dan Orlovsky, he's played more meaningful football you ever played.
Exactly.
Stop.
Connor, I value your baseball knowledge and you as the host of the Locked On Phillies podcast.
Thank you.
But if you said, what meaningful games have Garrett Stubbs played in? I would still call you crazy.
That's why I don't say that.
Exactly.
What series did he absolutely help the opponents win?
Well, what game did Dan Orlovsky ever help him win?
Last year.
But Dan Orlovsky knows more about football than Silver and Germantown, Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade, Connor Thomas.
Maybe if you combine all of us.
Right, maybe. Let's go to Mitch in Phoenix. Hello, Mitch.
I'll tell you one thing. The Philadelphia fans deserve better. And I think I figured out to a certain degree what's wrong with Philadelphia teams.
All right, what's that?
They have a hard time sustaining success. It doesn't matter if it's the Eagles, the Phillies, even the Flyers.
That's why we never had a dynasty, except for the 70s with the Flyers.
Yeah, dynasties are only given to a few cities, and a few teams that you can call.
Yeah, the major ones like L.A. and Boston. We're a major city, don't forget, Mitch. I know you're out in Phoenix.
Actually, I wouldn't even include L.A. When was the last time L.A. won a World Series?
Like 4 years ago.
The Lakers had a pretty good run. 5
years ago,
Mitch.
the Lakers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't care about L.A. I want to talk about Philly.
Okay.
They got off to a tremendous start, as we all know, and they were looked upon as a team that just can't be beat because they were just playing so tremendous.
Correct.
The way they look now, and I mean now, these last 3.5 weeks, is very similar how they got put away by the Diamondbacks in last year's playoff.
Yes, and that's what's causing the concern, and thanks for the call, Mitch, for people all across Philadelphia. Like, that's what we've been talking about that for weeks now.
Yes.
It's concerning. You just hope that maybe they get it out of the way now.
Well, there is no get it out of the way. That's the thing. Like,
it can always come back.
It can always come back, or it can always not happen. Like, that's the weird thing.
By the way, Kevin Cooney's a good detective on things. And I just have to throw something out there for Kevin.
Yeah.
In 2010, I forgot this. In 2010, the Phillies fired Milt Thompson, their hitting coach, 08-09.
Yeah.
When they went to the World Series twice. They fired him in July 22nd, because of what they considered to be absolutely unacceptable approaches at the plate and how the team was doing, even with the star-studded lineup. And it is interesting to me that it's a different, I think it might, whether it's a different day and age, a different approach. They literally called out like one of their player alumni.
Yeah.
And said, we've been to the World Series the last 2 years. This isn't good enough.
Right.
This is a horrible approach. We're shaking something up. We're doing something about it.
But here's my thing. Like, when it comes to the hitting coach, I
and it is hard.
I saw a funny tweet. His name's Sixto Lascano, the former Philly, but not the actual.
Yes, exactly.
He put out a tweet, what Twitter seems to think a hitting coach does. And it's a little boy with a baseball bat and a painting of Jesus helping him swing. And it's, but like, yes, like Kevin Long may have a philosophy. Yes. I also imagine that Dave Dombrowski and the analytics team have a philosophy. I imagine that Rob Thompson has a philosophy. I don't think Kevin Long is pulling Nick Castellanos aside and going, hey, swing at the slider low and away. Like, I don't think
they said
I'm just saying, I think it's overrated, the hitting coach. I do.
Okay.
I think that's
right.
I think the hitting coach and pitching coach is, I'm angry. I need somebody to blame. I need somebody's head to roll.
Yes.
You can't fire the manager, but you can fire the hitting coach.
Or you have what should be a tremendous batting order, and instead you have what we're getting.
So explain this to me. What happened between when this team was playing amazing baseball, we're the best offense in baseball, we're the best team in baseball,
right,
and where we're at today?
They started to pitch them like the Diamondbacks pitched them last year in the NLCS.
So you don't think people were trying to work around the Phillies when they were winning at a 600?
No, they were just giving them fastballs down the middle.
They were absolutely throwing more strikes than they are now. They absolutely are copying the Diamondbacks format. I mean,
so teams saw that in the NLCS, and for 3.5 months of the season, they said that probably won't work.
I don't know that they were studying the NLCS, and then they see it. They're like, these guys are swinging it. They will swing it, not swing at strikes.
Okay, so they could be pressing now, but I don't think Kevin Long went in during this team's hot stretch and said, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do different.
I would believe you if you say we're talking about 60-game stretch. This is not about pressing. This is about a horrendous approach at the plate for over 2 months.
Some of it might be. But
over 2 months.
When you start sliding, that's when you start pressing.
I understand, but
but that's not
how
even
much
the
has been pressing.
John,
how
that's
much
not
has been
even
sliding.
the point. The pressing isn't even the point. How did Kevin Long change what the team was doing well to what the team was doing poorly?
There are coaches that have been fired in the history of the game over and over again because you can't.
But John,
you've heard it. You can't fire the roster. You can't fire. But something is unacceptable, and their approach at the plate. And you have former Phillies, former major league players doing your broadcasts saying, this is horrendous.
So you're telling me it might not be his fault, but they should fire him anyway.
You know what? It's happened a million times
and that's
before.
wrong.
And
because things happen.
It might not be his fault, Connor. But what he's not doing is they're not going up with a different approach. They're not changing anything that they do. So, yes, I would absolutely advocate that he is being derelict in his duty.
So here's what I'll say, John. If Kevin Long, and I could be very naive, all right? You can call me crazy, Connor. You're not afraid to do that. Whenever you feel comfortable calling me crazy, go for it. If the team put out a statement today, we have decided to part ways with Kevin Long. Or if the team put out a statement today, we've extended Kevin Long's contract by 3 years, I will have the exact same reaction. All right.
Yeah.
To me, hitting coach, I get it, approach, but I do believe it's an organizational philosophy. Just like when it was Matt Klentak,
sure,
the philosophy was take pitches. So I remember all of the Scott Kingerys, the Reese Hoskins, everybody that was coming up, Altair, Nick Williams, the guys that were supposed to be the new crop of Phillies players. They all came up through a Matt Klentak system where it was be patient at the plate, right? That's great against AA, AAA pitchers when they're working on things, when they're not the best pitchers in the world. You're quickly down 0-2 against Max Scherzer.
Yep.
Right? So maybe one philosophy is, hey, we'd rather not be down 0-2 against the best pitchers in baseball, so let's attack early. Or we be patient and try to work the pitch count, but if the guy's finding the zone, are you really helping your cause? I'm sorry. It is 9:14, a couple minutes late. We're just so invested in this Phillies team. Here are our best 5 minutes of Adam Shefter and Dan Orlovsky. So at 8 o'clock, we are always joined by a great NFL man. Adam Shefter is live from a hotel. Shefty, where are we at today?
I am sitting at the front desk in the lobby of the Eagles Hotel in Massachusetts.
The preseason's been memorable so far for the Eagles in that, honestly, Philly, which is usually looking to pick apart the carcass, seems to be pretty positive on how the offense is looking smooth and, honestly, how the defense is coming together under Vic Fangio. What are you hearing, and have you had a chance to put your ear to the ground on any of this Eagles stuff?
I think they feel pretty good about this team. They're pretty happy with where it's at right now. They feel like it's progressing. There's still some work that they got to get done here, that they'll be doing here. Obviously, going up against the Patriots, again today, and then the game tomorrow night. A short preseason week. They get those games, especially the week of joint practices, don't really mean much of anything. That's a game for the backup of the backups. That's what that is after the joint practice work where the coaches can control it more. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, by all accounts, they feel like they've played pretty well against the Patriots, shined, whatever that's worth, right? Who knows? But I think they feel pretty good about this team right now.
All right, so how's the morale of the team? You got to talk to some of the players. We've obviously moved on from last year. Last week, we did talk to you about the article that came out from Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler. But I told you, John and I were using that as a positive, that it seemed like everything is done. It's now out in the open. It's almost like a weight is off our shoulders. We now know what happened. So how was the morale? Some of the players that you got to speak to so far last night and this morning.
They do feel good about this team. But again, I guarantee if I went around to 32 camps, most everybody would feel good about the team. I was on the phone with somebody from the Patriots last week, and they were insisting to me, I think we're going to be a little bit better than people think. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see about that. They might be. I don't know. We'll see. But my point is, if New England's saying that, everybody's saying that. So if I walked in here last night, and I'm talking to some of the guys, and I see some of the guys this morning, I'm talking to them, and somebody said, boy, I don't know, this camp, I don't know, this team's got some questions. You don't hear that in August. It's not really what you hear too much. everything is more upbeat, more positive, more promising, more optimistic. People feel good about things. So I wouldn't expect to hear anything different. But to that point, that was exactly what I did hear. Like, this team's really good. Like the guys last night were saying, Saquon, wow, like better than we thought. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Again, I think those are the things you expect to hear. That's the exciting part about training camp from a fan's perspective, from the media. You want to hear about guys that are shining and impressing and making their mark. And the players, they don't love the training camp element of it, but they can recognize that a player like Saquon in their minds is probably better than was advertised.
And I told you we were double dipping with ESPN. We go from Adam Schefter to a great quarterback mind. Dan Orlovsky joins us. Danny, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Good morning. How are you guys?
We're going through your list yesterday. And first off, we want to give you credit because it's different. It's not just, here are my top 10 quarterbacks. We appreciate the way that you did it, where you broke down the 7 different attributes of quarterback play. But what we want to do is try to figure out, Jalen Hurts was only in the top 10 for 2 of those categories.
Yep.
What does that mean, in your opinion, of Jalen Hurts as the overall quarterback? We were trying to figure that out yesterday.
Yeah, so right now, Jalen, for me, is a little bit more of a question mark than a known commodity. And what I mean by that is, with the new offensive coordinator coming off of the season that he had, we don't know exactly how he's going to transition into this new offense and exactly who he is as a player. We have one unbelievably dominant season back in 2022 when he played at an MVP level, and everyone knows, and obviously in the Super Bowl, might have won Super Bowl MVP. And then last year was, I don't want to say the complete opposite of that, but a significant opposite of that, where he really struggled. And was he injured? Was he not? All that. And so we've got those 2 seasons that are kind of the opposites of each other, with a player going into a new offense. And then for me, I'm sitting there going, okay, I want to see kind of what he is in this offense. Are they going to run him as much? All that. So, Jalen is, when I did the top 5 NFC quarterbacks a couple weeks ago, everyone lost their minds that both Dak Prescott and Jalen weren't in the top 5. And I had Goff and Cousins at 4 and 5, respectfully. And I was like, listen, you're probably taking those guys, specifically 3 or 4 of them, and interchanging them if you want. Jalen was in there the year before, coming off of the 22 season when he was unbelievable. But because of the performance of last year and some of the things that happened and the way that he played, I don't think he's top 5 right now, no.
Are you a believer that Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts is a good marriage?
I think on the surface, it's a good marriage, yes. Kellen's brilliant. I played with Kellen. I was with Kellen for a couple years just as backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and I've obviously followed his coaching career closely. I think some of the things that Kellen does, driving the football down the field, that's the identity of at least the Sirianni offense philosophically, is like throwing it early. Now, I've been adamant that they did that too much last year and Chase, so I like that. I like the play-action pass game. I think the 2 things that I'm really interested in is how well the blitz package or the blitz answer package develops. That's not something that Kellen's been notorious for, both in Dallas and LA. So, and that was a huge flaw of that offense in Philly last year. So how does that evolve between those 2? And then how much is he going to run Jalen? That has to be a relatively significant part of his game. It's not something that Kellen's done a lot, both, again, in Dallas and LA. And so for Jalen to be the player that he has in many times shown to be, that has to be a part of his game. So on the surface, I do like it, but I don't know those 2 answers yet.
Of the 7 quarterback attributes, you had Hurts in the top 10 for rushing ability and second reaction. The other 5, and I guess you could take arm strength out of it because you can't really just improve arm strength overnight. What's the thing that Jalen Hurts needs to do most to get back into the top 10 for you to say, all right, he's starting to get back to that quarterback out of those attributes that you gave us in your article?
Yeah, I'm definitely the ball placement and just pocket movement. Again, last year, I would have put him in probably the top 6 in both of those. To a 22 season, I said he was the most improved football thrower I've ever been around, as far as like when it comes to that ball placement. And I think there was a little bit specific to ball placement. There was a little bit of a couple different things that forced the drop off in that last year. One, he definitely at times forced the football to AJ. And that's always a fine line because you want to get your guy the ball. As far as an offense, you're dominant dominant player. So there was definitely moments where you're just forcing it to him, and when you do that, you're not as free throwing the football. 2, didn't trust the pocket as much, and that led to missed throws, and maybe not as pinpoint throw-wise. So getting a little bit more rhythm in that and back to that foundation. And then for that pocket movement, again, I probably would have had him in that top probably 6 or 7 in that as well going off of the 22 season. Last year, I was very outspoken. I do not believe he trusted the offensive line and the pocket interior-wise as much as he did the year before, and so that forced him to either leave pockets that were good or hang in pockets that weren't. And so getting back that stuff, I don't think it's necessarily like, oh my gosh, you have to improve. It's just getting back to being good at that over the course of the season, which he's shown the capability of doing.
See, at the end of there, you hear that Dan Orlovsky still believes in Jalen Hurts. It's just what he saw last year brings him down. And what I saw last year brought him down in my belief, but I still believe he can get back there, right? Just 2 years ago, he was a top 3 quarterback. After last season, he's 8th. Still good. Still top 10. All right, we dive deeper into it coming up next. We get more of your text reaction and your calls at 610-632-0975. We still have our key 3, and I saw something fascinating. Well, not really fascinating, but it's something that John and I agree on. Connor does not. A legend has spoken. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Phillies continue to flounder. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update is brought to you by Wawa.
Salciunas 97.5, The Fanatic's been a busy day today. We appreciate you being along for the ride. Speaking of ride, I hope you had a nice ride into work today. I forgot to say it. Adam Shefter threw me off. I was distracted.
7 accidents on the Schuylkill.
He was stop.
Last hour.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't put that beyond.
No, Can you tell the Phillies to have a nice game at the ballpark tonight?
Yeah. So here's the deal. So Connor Thomas is I haven't mentioned it yet because I don't know if it carries over.
What do you mean you don't know if it carries over?
I don't know.
What's that?
So Connor's wearing the shirt today, and for those of you who listened to the show back in the day, you wore the shirt like every day.
I started on like June 6th. Like it was almost exactly the date that the season turned around last year. I wore it every day following a Phillies win. It's this Phillies Hawaiian shirt.
And it smelled.
Oh, it probably still does. I wouldn't know, but it's not going to, hopefully it's not going to smell great for the rest of the season because that means I'm wearing it a lot. But last year, it was a big part of why the Phillies turned the season around. I had them all reach out to me individually and tell me.
Did they?
Yeah, they all called me. Private line. But
a lot of people take credit for the season turnaround.
Right? Other than the actual players who are out there playing, but I guess that's part of the
standing ovations, T-shirts.
Yeah. Bottom line is, this was the darkest moment of the season so far for me last night. So I broke the shirt back out.
All right. Well, I hope
that's fine.
I hope
It was terrible.
I hope there's carryover in the shirt. Now, he asked me during the break, John. He said, "Is tonight a guarantee win?" No. I told you I will only get chesty when I feel it. I don't feel it.
I'll be there as a fan, so I'm guaranteeing a win.
I'm with you, Johnny.
I have not lost this year as a fan.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
So I'll take that. Now that is in the stands as a fan 3 times.
Still, though. So, it's a better record than me.
3-0. So, no, tonight I like it.
Okay. Yeah,
and, Phillips will be.
Look, I've only done it twice. In 100, however many games they played so far, I've only done the guarantee twice. I'm 2-0. I can't do the guarantee. Like, I will guarantee. Strong chance I guarantee the Zach Wheeler start as a victory.
Ooh. Pre-guarantee guarantee. I like
we'll see. But,
Well, I just knew that Johnny was feeling that way because he's going, and I know that I broke out the shirt today, so I'm going to guarantee one tonight. And I wasn't sure if we were going to go 3 for 3 and have our first ever full show guarantee.
Look, tomorrow's burrito day, so tomorrow I'm in a good mood. So tomorrow's guarantee.
Yeah, that is good.
Tomorrow's wheels up burrito day, baby. Like tomorrow's a big day for me.
All right, fair enough.
All right, what do we have on the text line? We'll get to the phones as well, and then I want to tell you something that Randy Johnson spoke about.
Okay, he's a legend.
Okay, hey, what do we got, Connor?
Sean checks in, says the Phillies will be the next Eagles if things don't change very soon. One and done in the playoffs. When will one of these leaders on the team call players-only meeting and try and fire this team back up?
Is that the first time you guys have heard the Eagles comparison?
No, it's a million times.
Yeah, every single time. But he also says he'd rather go watch an Eagles open practice right now than a Phillies game.
Yes, that's fair. Dude, yesterday was horrible. Horrible. I think our man Black Gritty literally tweeted out, I'm done watching. You guys tell me what they did. Like, it was like the 4th inning. And I don't blame him. Like, yesterday's game, I kept that game on thinking at some point, so they're gonna at least string together a hit this inning, right? And they just didn't. They had 4 hits yesterday. 4.
It was terrible.
And it was in 7 innings against a guy that's nobody has ever heard of, and then they were blanked the last 2 innings.
And what did the Phils do with the like a 30-something pitch Taijuan Walker, like a 30-something pitch first inning? Then they just trot up. Look at the pitches per inning, the Phillies.
Yeah, they go down quickly.
That 9 pitch innings, 11 pitch innings, 13 pitch innings, 7 pitch innings. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd.
All right, let's go to our man Jay in West Philly. I'm sure Jay's feeling good about the fight.
What's up, JJ?
What's up, Jay?
Oh, what's going on, y'all?
See, Jay, I know you're happy today because you're not necessarily a team first guy. You're an individual first, and your boy had a hit yesterday.
Yeah, you see, and they shouldn't have pushed hit for him. But Connor,
you can't have patience for him, right? You can't have patience for Rojas. But Marsh, let him have 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a whole another storyline with the Phillies and their history behind that. But Connor,
what's up, Jay?
Your constant defense of the Phillies sounds like a paycheck to me.
Well, I mean, I do get better pay from the podcast if they do well, but when did I defend them today, Jay? Jay, what did I say today defending the Phillies?
You say everything. You defend everything. You
okay, tell me what I said defending how this team's playing right now.
Schwarber should be batting 4th or 5th preferably fourth. He should be the cleanup hitter. But, oh, no, we're not moving him. When the numbers say the same thing, would you rather be up 1-0 or 2-0 with him up the bat?
Bro, nobody's on base. It won't matter. We could be up 1-0 earlier.
There's a threat behind him. If somebody gets on base, it's a threat for him. He's going to do the same thing. If he hit a homer, it's going to be...
But here's the thing, Jay. Look, Jay, I am on board with you there. It is a battle but it's a battle not worth fighting at this point.
Why?
Okay, but why is it not worth fighting?
Because it's not going to change.
Now, and CJ,
when he's up there, the whole offense stalls.
CJ puts the numbers here.
Thanks for the call, Jay. We appreciate it, man.
One of our followers going, there is, as Andrew pointed out earlier in the show, there is no correlation in his production as to where he bats in the order. So it doesn't make sense that they wouldn't put him down. He hits just as well. He just doesn't get as much run batted in. His RBIs are down because they bat him leadoff. His history with the Phillies shows he actually knocks in more runs when he's not the leadoff hitter.
So I've had people tell me this about Kyle Schwarber. That's another part that normal fans don't really consider as much. I hadn't considered as much until I heard this. But he is an expert communicator with his teammates.
Letting people know the pitches.
Which means when he gets up there and sees stuff, he is very good at talking to the dugout about what he's seen and evaluating
How's that
what
working
pitches
out?
Yeah, I was about to say,
how's that working out?
It's really helping out.
I understand.
0 for 4 yesterday.
I mean, it's terrible.
There are other things that we don't consider other than just like the numbers transfer over. And the thing with the Kyle Schwarber conversation, this is how I can tell this fan base is losing their collective freaking minds, because the fact that we're doing this Kyle Schwarber thing again is insane. Kyle Schwarber batting leadoff is not the reason this team is slumping.
No, they're
Kyle
just
Schwarber
saying,
batting fourth will not save them.
They're saying try something different.
That's what they're saying.
I get that, but
they're
like,
not saying anything about
we're
Kyle
going back to
Schwarber
old
being
crutches.
bad or otherwise.
No, I know. I'm not saying that, but we're going back to old crutch conversations.
Well, hold on
about
a second.
this, that, and the other
It's
thing.
not old crutch if people have always felt that way.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because we had a lot of those conversations when the Phillies were winning at a 600-some
But the thing is, they were never. And the fact remains, if anyone knows anything about statistical analysis, they were not winning because Kyle Schwarber was the leadoff hitter.
Okay, yeah.
They were not.
How do
that
you even
was
say
not because it was. There's no correlation because you could point to a 50 other variables that were why the team won.
Okay.
Did Zach Wheeler pitch a 5-hitter that night?
You can point to 50 other variables while they're losing. So why are we having the Kyle Schwarber move him?
No, we're just having a conversation about
it's about
changing
switching things up. It's not working, Connor, for 2 months.
I understand, but the top of the lineup is going to be what it is.
Why?
It can be the
That
same
doesn't
4
make
guys,
sense.
but it can be in a different order. Like, if let's say today the lineup card comes out and Schwarber's batting cleanup, right? Is hell going to freeze over?
Is it going to disrupt things?
Guys, again, bigger problems with the team. You have a guy batting in the 5-hole that Andrew's brought up that's batting below 100.
Should not be batting fifth.
Like, I'm not moving Kyle Schwarber. I'm not moving Bryce Harper. I'm not moving Trey Turner because there are 3 or 4 guys in this lineup that are automatic outs right now. You know what I'm doing? I'm taking care of them first, and then we're going to figure out if we need to do more. Sweeping changes, moving your vocal leader who's batted leadoff all year for you to the cleanup hole, those are moves that say to the team, we're floundering. And I know they are.
And they are
I know they
floundering.
are. But Rob Thompson has to keep some semblance that things are going to be all right.
Connor, if you said that same thing after 3 weeks of bad baseball, I am absolutely backing you. It's 8 weeks. I'm tired of hearing this crap. I'm tired of it.
Okay, I'm tired of saying it, but there's not many other answers.
We got to keep it this way. Got to keep it this way. There's no reason to keep it that way.
And I can say this, Connor. Look, if it doesn't work for a week,
then change it back.
Go back.
What are you going to do? Okay. Are you going to be worse than you are right now?
Yeah, because right now they're pretty freaking bad.
Are you going to be like 7 innings of no run baseball against a guy who's a quad A pitcher?
And nobody's saying that if you move Schwarber to the cleanup spot, all of a sudden everything's solved.
And nobody is pointing to Schwarber as the problem.
No.
It's just try something different.
Right.
It's not working, Rob. Hey, Rob, it's not working.
Okay.
Try something.
Okay.
Do something.
But you can try things that make more sense. That's what I want to see.
I want the coroner to check Rob pregame and see if there's a pulse.
See, well,
because there's no pulse to it.
September and October.
We might be getting to a point of a shakeup.
We
might be getting to a point.
We'll see if we get that today.
8 weeks of bad baseball, Rob, and we might be getting to it.
As I said earlier, today's
seriously.
Today is the first day I am actually going to look to see what the lineup looks like when it comes out. I don't normally do it because it doesn't do anything. I already see Dylan has an OPS of blah, 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 blah. I get it. We're not saying Schwarber's the problem.
Nobody's saying that.
It's just try something different.
He's one of the guys.
That's
one
not
of
the
the
different
guys
thing to try.
that I would.
All right, fine. Then put him lead off still and have Bone bat second.
Like do something different.
Or don't be afraid of lefty.
If you want to leave,
if
you want to leave him there,
and that's what we're having.
Somebody
We're
else
having
around.
conversations.
Right, but the Kyle Schwarber thing's a non-starter.
Okay, we talked about it for 5 minutes. It's not like today was a 4-hour show on Kyle Schwarber batting lead
And
off.
I'm telling you, it's a non-starter. I'm going to be bullish on the opinions that I think are crazy, and that one's nuts.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Coming up next, we have the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, the 3 best minutes from today's show, followed by something fascinating. Randy Johnson was interviewed strictly about Paul Skeens and pitch limits. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now is the time to become a Fanatic MVP. Go right now to 975.
9:47 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Coming up in a few minutes, something interesting from Randy Johnson about pitch limits. Because Paul Skeens is obviously the talk of the town, and Randy Johnson was at one point the talk of the town. I found it pretty interesting, so we'll read through this article a little bit before you come up in a few minutes, but it's time now for the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3.
Now, the Kincade and Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
Screw it. Good morning. What's up, Johnny? I'm not even going to do the normal.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
A good Wednesday morning. No. Damn it.
No, and it just gets a little bit worse all the time.
Phillies lose 5-0. 5-0. 5-0. A 4-hit performance by your Philadelphia Phillies against a guy 0% of Philadelphians have ever heard of. I would say probably 2% of Major League Baseball heard of Valente Beloso.
I Googled him at 5:30.
There's no way anyone knew who that guy was.
Oh,
Maybe they had no scouting report on him, and that's why he pitches 7 shutout innings and allows only 4 hits to a lineup that is being paid $18 billion, something like that. Don't quote me on it.
Oh, no, that's not the only reason that you can go 7 shutout innings. You can do that because, once again, a crappy approach at the plate, swinging at garbage. First pitches? Oh, sure. We're going to swing. We don't even know what this guy has in his repertoire, but we're going to swing at first pitches all the freaking time. This team is they are atrocious for more than 2 months.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
Lifeless. And here's the problem. That's now 3 straight lifeless games out of this baseball team.
And the slump shoulders and the shaking of the heads. I have no idea. And then, again, the butcher of shortstop at it again. Routine ground balls. A routine ground ball to short is not routine with this team. It's just not. It's not. They have too many spots where they literally look like Tom Cruise handling a grenade in a Mission Impossible movie.
Right.
It's freaking terrible. You know what the problem is, Andrew? There's no life during a game, but more importantly, there's no life afterwards or before it.
So at 8 o'clock, we are always joined by a great NFL man, Adam Shefter.
I think they feel pretty good about this team. They're pretty happy with where it's at right now. They feel like it's progressing. There's still some work that they got to get done here, that they'll be doing here. Obviously, going up against the Patriots, but again today, and then the game tomorrow night. But yeah, by all accounts, they feel like they've played pretty well against the Patriots. Shine.
Have you heard Rob Thompson stand up in front of the media, tell the fans of this town, and speak publicly and say, our team plays stupid baseball?
Well, no, because that's going to
our team doesn't know what base to throw the ball to.
Yeah, you're right.
I can promise you this. We love Charlie Manuel in this town. Charlie Manuel sure as hell would have said it.
Dan Orlovsky joins us.
Right now, Jalen, for me, is a little bit more of a question mark than a known commodity. And what I mean by that is, with the new offensive coordinator coming off of the season that he had, we don't know exactly how he's going to transition into this new offense and exactly who he is as a player.
They don't have an answer, flat out. And to me, that is the worst part of all, because it's one of the things where we killed Nick Sirianni for it last year. When the team was in a death spiral, he had nothing to be able to remedy the situation. Rob Thompson, I got to tell you, what is a manager for?
Well, so that's the thing.
What's a manager for?
I write down today's topic of what can they do different, and I really don't know if there is much that they can do different.
How about accountability for when guys are playing lackadaisical, lazy, lethargic baseball? What did Charlie Manuel do? What did Dallas Green do? They held players accountable, and they publicly held players accountable.
Well, so the Topper versus Sirianni thing. Look, it's an interesting conversation. It's also just hard because the sports are so different. Like, how many times do we say a manager really only wins you or loses you?
Like 10 to 12 games
in a 162-game season, whereas a head coach in football could be part of a reason why you went from 10-1 to 11-6.
What is his supposed to be greatest skill set? And I believe it is. It has been.
Who, Rob Thompson?
Yes.
It's, keeping everybody together and, the happy clubhouse.
It's fallen apart.
All right. Kincade and Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show.
Lots of opinions.
Lots of opinions today, no short of them. You can check out the Adam Shefter and Dan Orlovsky interviews on 97.5thefanatic.com, as well as our YouTube page. Coming up at 10 o'clock, of course, next will be the Mike Missanelli Show with Ray Dunn and Bill Colarulo. But I wanted to go through this with you guys real quick, because I know this is something that, I like. This is a fastball down the pipe for you. All right, this is a Taiwan Walker 88-mile-an-hour heater for you to hit.
Okay. He's throwing 92.
You're Jake Berger right now. Randy Johnson was asked about Paul Skeens, another former top prospect and the guy that just flamethrower and all this kind of stuff. And it's funny. He basically straight up said that there are Paul Skeens every 10 to 15 years, if not less. It's dependent on the organization if they then allow them to become the Randy Johnsons and the Pedro Martinezes. And the reason why recently we've seen guys fall off is because of these pitch limits. Now, Spencer Strider got hurt earlier this season. He was, look, let's face it, at one point, the hype that Paul Skeens was getting, Spencer Strider was getting just like 2 years ago.
Sure he was.
And everybody's so careful with these pitchers. And here's a quote from Randy Johnson. He says, I don't think it has anything to do with velocity. I threw 95 to 100. Nolan Ryan threw hard. Pedro Martinez threw hard. Roger Clemens threw hard. There's a lot of pitchers that throw hard, and none of them had Tommy John surgery. And they all threw a lot more than today's pitchers. They would throw 250 to 260 innings and 135 pitches a game. So I don't know why there are so many injuries in today's game. I really don't. Now, we've talked about this. Mechanics have changed a lot.
And also, too, that today, the majority of kids coming up are playing much more baseball than the kids of previous generations.
And that's probably a big part of it, right?
That's fair. Randy Johnson's point is also somewhat flawed. Like, he named guys that threw hard, but the average fastball velocity in Major League Baseball since 2008
has gone up.
Has either gone up or stayed the same year over year. Like, people are throwing harder. There were guys that threw hard, but the average pitcher is throwing harder.
Right. And so he's talking about Paul Skeens and how he's great. Like, he's not denying that he's a great pitcher, but in terms of like record books and stuff, in today's game, wow, that was a great 5 innings out of Paul Skeens, right? Whereas not long ago, 15, 20 years ago,
5 innings would have been a disappointment.
Yeah. You're expecting 7, 8 innings.
Top 2 guys in the rotation, you would never have celebrated 5 or even 6 innings.
Right.
You would have said he labored through 6 innings.
And I love this quote. You're going to have to go 7 or 8 innings, and you're not going to hurt yourself because the game has been around for 150 years, and people went 7, 8 innings all the time, and they threw 115, 135 pitches. You just have to mold your body, and your body needs to become accustomed to what kind of workload. That's all it is. Now, that's all it is? I don't know.
Well, it's where science doesn't back up today's philosophy.
It's more so investment.
It's
That's what it is. It's money investment. That's
it's
all
more so investment than science.
You're scared of it.
Velocity is in there too.
Yeah, it is.
And the ability to look at these injuries and have more data on these injuries is into it too. There's a lot of contributing factors, but Randy Johnson's right. Pitchers are not going to be able to reach marks that pitchers in the 90s did.
Right. Greatest pitching staff of the last 50 years. The Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, Denny Nagel, all those. They threw more than any pitching staff out there. Off days, they're between starts. They constantly threw.
Yep.
And now it's like, can't do it. Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, Win Donation, and make a deal today. Make it a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. I'm living proof. Cancer research saves lives.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. It's a Wednesday hoop night, Connor, and that means tomorrow is a Wendy's Burrito Thursday.
Be ready for it.
Everybody have a great rest of your day. Mike